Good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone to our City of Little Rock Board of Directors meeting that will set the agenda for the March 19, 2024 meeting. And so just want to share that appreciation. I'm going to start off. We got got a number of different items on for the agenda. So I will kick off our AmeriCorps Week proclamation, and I ask Vice Mayor Webb to join me, please. As well as the members of the AmeriCorps, well, I know we have a number of different folks they'll come join. And Director Webb has on her red. Well,
Good.
Whereas 30 years ago, Congress established AmeriCorps, formerly the Corporation for National and Community Service, to unite national service programs under one agency, creating service opportunities that strengthen communities and expand pathways to education, careers, and civic participation for those who serve. And whereas service is a hallmark of the American character and has the unique ability to bring people of all backgrounds together in common cause to meet our country's most pressing challenges, AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Seniors programs provide opportunities for 200,000 Americans annually to serve their country through service and nonprofits, schools, public agencies, and community and faith-based organizations across the country. Whereas in Arkansas, more than 3,100 AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers of diverse ages and backgrounds help to meet local needs in more than 300 locations by responding to disasters, mentoring children and youth, supporting veterans and military families, fighting the opioid epidemic, restoring the environment, and digital equity. And whereas the City of Little Rock currently hosts one AmeriCorps American Connection Corps Fellow and one team of National Civilian Community Corps members, and whereas volunteering prepares AmeriCorps members for future careers and improves the mental well-being of AmeriCorps senior volunteers, and their commitment to service reflects the dedication and patriotism of those who serve, and through their service, AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers improve the lives of their families, strengthen communities, and foster civic engagement in the City of Little Rock as a whole. And whereas AmeriCorps Week is an opportunity to recognize the dedication and commitment of the 200,000 members of volunteers who serve each year, the more than 1.2 million AmeriCorps alumni and millions of AmeriCorps senior volunteers and their community partners, as well as to encourage more Americans to follow their footsteps in service. Now, therefore, I, Frank Scott Jr., Mayor of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim the week of March 10th through the 16th, 2024 as AmeriCorps Week. Let's give them all a round of applause. And again, the city has leveraged the AmeriCorps relationship. We're very grateful for it. We also know that many organizations within the City of Little Rock, whether it be private, nonprofit, are leveraging AmeriCorps. I believe Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance, where Vice Mayor Webb works as of today, but not too long, because she just had a retirement party yesterday. And let's give her a round of applause. So we want to share that appreciation. And who do I give this to? Whom? Katie, here you go.
Sure.
All right, we'll let you give a few brief remarks, okay?
Sure. Well, my name's Katie Matthews. I'm an AmeriCorps Program Officer with Engage Arkansas. We represent the Governor's Advisory Commission on Volunteerism, as well as the Arkansas Service, the Arkansas Service Commission. All 50 states have a service commission. And I'm joined today not only with the programs that I get to work with, that are state programs, like CAFNY with Every Arkansan, but also our NCCC team that is serving here in Little Rock through the end of the summer. And yes, it's AmeriCorps Week, and we are celebrating all of our members that serve across the state. We have over 3,000 members serving across 300 sites in Arkansas. Little Rock is known as one of the great Ameri cities, and we have so many members out there serving that you may not even know about. So I would encourage you to get to know your AmeriCorps members who are serving with you, and thank you. Thank you to our service members.
We'll go Director Webb.
To the wrong side.
All right, members of the City Board, do we have any questions on the consent agenda, items 1 through 19? Director Hines?
Yes, Mayor. I have questions on 12, 17, or not 17, but 17, 18, I want to ask to be held separate. And I have 17 and 18 to be held separate, and I've got some questions on 18 as well. But item 12, which is the fire department ARPA funds, if I can just get a rundown on what we're doing with those in the fire department.
So you want a question on 12, you want to hold separate 17 and 18?
Correct, and I've got some questions on 18 as well.
And did you say 19 as well?
Nope, not too.
12, 17, and 18.
Yep.
The question on item number 12,
Sure, I can take that.
do we have the question?
I just want to know what we're
With the changes?
what we're
Sure.
doing, what the changes are.
So originally, there were a couple of projects within the Little Rock Fire Department, and one of them was the new station at West Little Rock, and this puts all the funds towards the new station at West Little Rock.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And
On 17, you have a question or you just want to hold that
I just
separate?
want to hold that separate.
You have a question on 18 because we're going to do a presentation.
Okay, I'll wait till the presentation then on 18.
All right, we'll go ahead with the presentation on 18. Well, let me go through these director's questions.
Go ahead, well, I can hold off till after the presentation with any questions.
Director Adcock?
Yes, I have a question on item 5.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know how long this is extended to. How long have we continued just to extend it and not have it rebidded?
Is Director Hinton here?
I don't see him here.
We can get that historical information for you.
Okay, I have a question on 8, 9, and 10.
What's the question on 8?
Well, it's all the same question on all 3. I'd like to know about this sale and purchase of this property, where it's located, and why we are doing this.
All right, Director Honeywell, can you come up and give any brief discussion on 8, 9, and 10? Which all are dealing with the highway department.
Then I also have one on 16 and 17, as well as I would like to know, I think it's on 18 that Director Hines was also asking about.
All right, before we get to that, Director Honeywell is going to address, Director Hinton, Director Adcock will email you the historical information on item number 5. Director Honeywell is going to address 8, 9, and 10.
Mayor,
Okay? I would like item 5 to be answered publicly too, because I think others might have a question about that.
Yes, Director Miller.
yes, I mean, on 8, I just, since
Mr.
you're up there, I
Honeywell,
want to make
please
sure, and this, you guys probably already know this, but I don't know what the Dillard's project is, so maybe in the explanation of 8, you can bring me up to speed on what's the Dillard project.
Certainly.
Okay, thanks, Mayor.
Number 8 is simply to take, y'all already approved number 8. We did that because we have title to the property, but it's really for Dillard's under an Act 9 bond. But somewhere along the line, the money was not given to who it needs to be given to, so we're amending this so we can get the money to the right place. That's what 8 is.
So
John, if you'll address 8, 9, and 10. Board members, are there any questions, besides Director Miller and Director Adcock, any other questions on 8, 9, and 10 that we can prepare Director Honeywell, Director Phillips?
Yes, I just was wondering about this property, why we are selling it, buying it.
And before you answer that, Director Honeywell, Director Phillips, your question?
I also had a question on number 8. The way I read the resolution is that we were increasing the cost to include the amount of the land. So that's why it increased from what we originally approved last year. So I didn't know how much land we're.
Director, so there was a tract of land that was not accounted for, and so this adds that tract of land, which is what Mr. Carpenter was referring to.
How large is that was gonna be my question. What's the tract? How large is it? So you can include that if you know the answer.
Okay. So number 8 is the highway department's, I'll stand back here and talk to it. Number 8, the highway department is going to be replacing the Gill Street Bridge, or the bridge that's located there directly west of the Dillard's campus. As part of that construction project, they'll be realigning that bridge, so they had to acquire property along that Dillard's frontage near the west end where their parking deck is located. That's this property that we're referring to here, where that extra parcel is. I don't know off the top of my head how the increase or what the details of this increase in costs are. That was something that was negotiated between the Dillard's facility and the highway department. But since we're the ones that had that ownership, and Tom, tell me to stop talking if I'm saying it wrong, it still has to come through the board since it's still we own it, but they lease the property.
Okay.
So the project is they're going to be rebuilding that bridge. So that's why they're acquiring this parcel of property from the city. Number 9 and number 10 are pieces of property that are associated with the next phase of the highway department's Highway 10 project going further west. These are properties that are located out, I believe, in the Pankey area, where they're having to do some work reconnecting. Because of the road widening, it's impacting access for some of.
Director Honeywell, if you'll speak into the mic.
Is it better now? Okay.
Well,
So I'll start again. The Highway 10 project, 8 and 9 are the same highway department project. It's their continued expansion of Cantrell Highway 10 going west. In the Pankey area, because of the expansion, they're having to change access to some of the properties that front Highway 10. And through that process, they're having to acquire some parcels that the city owns, or parts of those parcels for this right of way. And that's what those 2 parcels are about. It's part of that Highway 10 expansion going west.
Okay, thank you.
I think I answered all the questions.
Director Miller, was your question answered?
I guess that's the Dillard project.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess what they're referring to as Dillard's project here is the replacement of that bridge
Okay.
on campus.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have the answer for number 5.
Yes.
Director Adcock, this contract was a 1-year contract from 23 to 24. And so this will be the first renewal. And there are only 2 total renewals that there could be. And this is the first of 2 possible renewals.
Okay, thank you.
Director Wyatt?
I had a couple of questions. One of them is in regard to the Highway 10 sales. Item 9, where it talks about Josephine Pankey and the Pankey Edition, and I know we've had some interest in that area. Cappy knows more about it than I do, but for some subdivision work, and there were some conflicts about streets and all that kind of stuff, and so I'm wondering if there are plans out there that the community can look at? I don't know if Cappy's seen them. Have you seen them? Okay.
RDOT is going to be making a lot of improvements, and they've been very communicative with the Pankey neighborhood.
Okay, so they do know about that? Okay, because there was a lot of confusion at a couple of planning commission meetings that I attended, so I'm glad they're doing that. The other question I had was, on item 12, do we have the money that we need to replace the fire station that's on Shackleford Road? Have all the funds been secured for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then Cappy, I don't know if you want to talk about the email that you sent out and all the requests from the fire department at this point, but if we're talking about reallocating money, I don't know if some of these items ought to be included in this tranche or where we are with that.
I'll save that. So I want to talk to you all about some things.
Okay, not on this particular item.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Director Peck, is that from the fire chief on some requests?
No, it's about the burn building being raised, and I haven't had a conversation with Chief Hubbard. I have had some conversations with some of the firefighters about their training facility, burn building being raised, and how the importance of having a training facility and a letter of intent and accreditation. I have a litany of things that I'll get organized in a better way, but I'd rather wait and not talk about it right now.
Sure, I just,
Well, I received this email, and I just didn't know if this was the proper time to talk about it, or if you had plans for later.
I would just suggest, unless the fire chief initiated that, maybe you all will schedule a meeting with the fire chief.
Well, and that was my plan, to
Okay.
talk to Chief Hubbard.
All right, thank you. All right. Director Warwick, did you have another question?
Nope, I think.
Director Adcock, did you have another question?
Yes, item 17.
Yes, ma'am.
The question is, why are we appointing a North Little Rock person to Central Arkansas Water?
Because that's what the agreement says.
The
The
proce-
agreement,
I was going to answer. You got to let me answer.
the agreement has both cities approving the people that will serve on it. The North Little Rock people are recommended by the North Little Rock City Council. The Little Rock people are recommended by the Little Rock Board of Directors from the nominations made by the commission itself. So when we take a Little Rock nominee and approve it, North Little Rock also has to approve it, or the position is not filled. In this situation, North Little Rock has recommended an individual. Their council will approve it, but it's not final until we also approve it.
I think we need to make sure that next week when we vote on this, that we state that so that people will not think that we're bypassing people from Little Rock and appointing North Little Rock. Thank you.
There are those of us, though, who grew up in North Little Rock, Director Warwick, that think it's a great little town.
All right. Director Warwick, is your hand still up for a question?
I was woo-hooing Tom about North Little Rock.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go through and then we'll come back to the presentation on 18. Are there any questions on the planning items? 20 through 34?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just curious on Resolution 20. Where's the application? Who made the application? Just curious. What entity submitted this application for this resolution?
We'll find that, but normally what's happened in the past, and I don't know if this is correct, that Don Dugan would do it from time to time, but we'll see.
I believe it's the Soma District. Is that?
We have a board that does it.
Yeah.
It was Soma Board.
The Soma Entertainment District Board?
It's the Soma Entertain. They have a board in Soma and they do it. Soma has a board and they make the application.
Okay, so it's the Business and Merchants Association. They have they have a meeting every Thursday. That's the group who did it? Because that's, okay. Thank you. I was just curious about that.
Director Phillips?
Yeah, I had a question on number 28. I guess this would be for Director Collins, maybe.
Director Collins, will you come? Are there any other questions for Director Collins while he's up, so we'll have him prepared, so he doesn't go back and forth? Director Adcock?
I have one on 36 and one on 39 and 40.
All right. So 22 and then 36, 39, and 40, and Director Phillips, what was yours? 28.
I have one on 26.
And 25.
All of them.
Let's go through all of
32
them.
and 33.
Just tell them to stay up there.
Well, I get you first, Director Collins, and mine's, I think it's pretty simple. I couldn't tell from the write-up on number 28, there's currently 2 single-family residents on each of these lots, and they're building duplexes. So are they demolishing the current homes to build the duplexes, or are they turning the homes into duplexes? I was confused by that.
Okay, let me pull up the description of what's existing. They're going to convert the existing residential structure to a duplex structure. One unit of the duplex, that's at 1721 Denison, and they won't reside at it. So can we bring up the site plan for that? Sketch map? So you kind of see there's a...
28, I think 28 is on Roberts Road.
Did I pull up the...
Yeah, I think you put up a different one.
I'm sorry, that's 29. Let me give you a second to get to that one. There is nothing in the write-up that we have that says they're tearing them down. I'll have to clarify that with the resident or the applicant on there. It just says they're going to be converted to the R4, the 2-family district. So I'll have to find that.
You can figure
It's
that
just to
out.
allow a duplex on each lot.
But we
I'll
don't
get
know what
clarity
they're
on
doing
that
with
to
the
tell you if they
existing
get tore down
structures.
and brand new structures or if they're converting the existing.
Okay, if you can get that to me, I would appreciate it. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you, Director Collins.
26, Director Collins?
Did you have 21?
Okay, who had the specific question on 26?
On 21, it says that,
Director Adcock, we're going over. Director Lewis, did you have a question on 26? I got
22.
22.
I just wanted to know why is staff recommending approval, because I'm pretty sure the neighbors showed up for this meeting and spoke against it. And I've gotten quite a few complaints. So when now seeing that it's on for appeal, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, it's not, this is just a resolution to set the public hearing for that appeal
Okay, so,
of the Planning Commission's recommendation of denial. So any time that the Planning Commission has a denial, there can be an appeal of that to the board level for this planned development. So that's in the code as written.
so in order for them to appeal, they're going to come back, but we will be notified.
Yes, this is the setting. So any appeal of a planned development denial at the Planning Commission has to come before the board. If the Planning Commission approves a planned development, then to enact the ordinance, it has to come before the board. So either way, whether it's approved or denied, if appealed on denial, it comes before the board for that action. Essentially, it would be, if the board approves, it would be overturning the Planning Commission's denial, and it would set an ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Adcock?
yes, Mr. Collins, on 21 and 22, the Planning Commission recommended denial and you recommended approval. So can you tell me why they wanted to deny it and you approved it?
Well, a lot of those, when we make those recommendations, and I don't have a write-up on how many showed up in opposition, the neighborhood spoke, so I'll have to get that. A lot of times when the Planning Commission makes a recommendation to denial on these short-term rentals, neighborhood opposition has come out at the meeting or sent in prior to the meeting. So I'll have to go back and check and see the minutes to that. I don't have the minutes here.
I'd like to see the minutes of that meeting, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and on item 36, I would like next week to have pictures on those. It does not have the addresses of those on here.
So on
36, it may be housings and not yours.
We do have pictures of those tonight.
It's some houses that we're going to tear down.
that is
Okay. And then on 39 and 40, the Planning Commission, what staff is recommending denial. Can you tell me why?
well, on those, originally when we had come through there, we had recommended approval, and then it was deferred by the applicant, and then we received a lot of opposition from the neighborhood in there. And so we, as I've said before, I wanted these short-term rentals to be truly neighborhood notified, neighborhood, come out and speak. And so if we know that there's a restriction on a short-term rental like commercial, and we see that more out west, and their covenants and restrictions or deed restrictions, if we know that, then we recommend denial. If we receive a lot of opposition through there, then we'll recommend denial. But for this one, we received a lot of opposition for it out there for those two locations.
Okay.
So that's why originally it was approval, then we changed it to denial when it actually was heard at the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll now go to Director Hines.
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to ask that item 24 and 25 be held separate. And I think that's it. No questions on them, just that be held separate.
Do you have no questions?
No questions, just that they be held separate.
All right. Director Wyrett.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Collins, item 26, this is on Sardis Road. It's a heavily traveled road, but it's very narrow. And this will be the first apartments, if you will, that are on Sardis Road. They're next to residential areas. It's 1.93 acres, planned residential development, four-unit townhomes on 1.93 acres, and apparently it meets all of the requirements, or at least with doing the PDR, it fits the land. It talks about a wall that's going to be built on one side, and when you look at the land from the road, there is a drop-off to the northeast side of it, and the only sketch that we have, it looks like it's kind of like a topo sketch. Do we have any information that reflects how these are going to sit on the 1.93 acres, landscaping, any information in regards to what to expect when the apartments are built?
I'll look through in the process of filing the application if there's anything additional. Typically, what you see as far as that retaining wall and the location, that met the criteria of presenting for that type of development. They're going to, meet the codes. We put the statement in there that they meet the landscape codes. But I will go back, see if there's anything additional that was submitted in their application that we didn't include in the board communication.
I would
sent
think
out,
with
so.
the plan development that they would have had to specify certain things about the development to give to you so you could give a recommendation to the planning commission and to us. And a topo is not doing it for me. I don't know that I've got a problem with it. I've looked at the developer and I've seen some of his work. In fact, the mayor was at a groundbreaking ceremony where he built a house or duplexes. And so I don't know that I've got a problem with that, but it's different. It's different in the whole area. It's all residential. And to have those fourplexes standing there on that small area of land, I would just like to see some details of what it's going to look like.
I understand. All that we have is, in this write-up is just, they said they would make the screening per the ordinances and the codes and the buffers.
But a planned development, normally, it has more requirements than just a residential or a normal apartment complex.
It can, yes. We also, keep in mind, we also have plan developments that come through that are just use-driven. They're just a change of a specific use. They haven't presented any site plans yet. So it varies on the level of what is presented to a plan in a plan development. So it could be more conceptual in nature of uses, and it could be very detailed to the color of the buildings, material and stuff like that. It's whatever is presented and put into as a condition of an ordinance.
And the other thing is, I was trying to find it while you were talking, how many parking spaces are we allowing or asking them to allow for these units? I think I read one, but
Yes.
isn't that a lesser number than we normally apply to apartments?
Well, on a single home, it's 1.5 stalls. So typically a home, 2 cars or 1 car, you don't have 1.5. That's what it calculates up to be. And so in there, providing for the unit with kind of 1-car garage with additional parking space behind, we felt like that met that requirement. So 1 car would be in the garage, and then 1 car would be in front of the garage.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see how that's going to look. I'd like to see that. I hope you find some information on it.
I will look and see, and I will
Okay.
forward to the board
Okay.
what we have in the application file.
But it is a very unusual development. I mean, you're almost at the city limits boundary where this is going in. I mean,
It is a unique location where it is. We wouldn't typically see something like that out there in that location. It goes, you see some, even the zoning map, you bring it up, you do see some single-family residential out there as far as a subdivision type, but more than the area is large residential, large tract type of uses out there in that area. Although it is zoned for R2, which could go more dense single-family residential, but it's more larger tract out there.
the street that runs beside of it are 5-acre lots with some pretty nice homes on them. And then this abuts to that subdivision. And then the others are smaller homes, but it's going to be almost, you could spit on the city limits from where this is going in. I mean, it's at the tail end of our city limits and nothing else like this on Sardis Road. So it is different. So I'd like to see some details if you have them.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more questions, Director Wire?
No, thank you.
Director Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. Jamie, let me ask you on, and I may have been able to figure it out on number 32. Scott, is that, that's on the southeast corner of 17th and Scott Street? Or where car wash bays used to be. I'm trying to get my bearings on this.
It is the southeast corner of Scott and 17th.
Okay, it's called the Scott, but these apartments will be facing 17th Street in this drawing. They won't have a Scott Street address, will they?
Yeah, it'll be 17th.
It's a 17th Street address?
Yeah, they would deliver off 17th.
Okay, and as far as the parking is concerned, there'll be parking access off of Scott Street and Cumberland Streets?
Yeah, if you look at that sketch plan, it comes off both, goes in and serves them their 90-degree parking at the back of those units. So essentially, you won't see the parking from 17th.
Okay, and this is capital zoning for both of those units? It covers all that? Seems like part of it's in capital zoning and maybe the eastern portion is not?
I think that eastern portion, that's where, capital zoning comes across and kind of splits that, goes mid-block down through there.
Okay.
So they would have to go get that approval from the capital zoning side.
They've already got that, though?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, we wouldn't control that approval.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had, man. I was trying to get my bearings on that.
All right, Director Peck, then Director Webb.
Thank you. Jamie, while you're up there, if we just can revisit 39 and 40 again, I just want to make sure I understand, since I'm meeting with the Walton Heights neighborhood on Wednesday. They're still renting. I still get videos sent to me almost every weekend of the parties and all of the cars. I'm assuming that this is not going to go away. You insinuated before the meeting that she would probably fight this because it is a good source of income. They're obviously still renting it now. What will the recourse be? I mean, will they be able to continue renting this if this fight goes on? I mean, what do I tell the neighbors? That's what I really want to know.
Well, the process is anytime that it is denied or the zoning come through the operating without the current zoning, we could provide notice and go through the process. But in that process, when it goes to environmental court, the judge, if it's going to the hearings, like this process, they hold off that while they're finishing up that process. So until the board hears the appeal and makes the decision of that appeal, we would not go and enforce on that until, if it is denied of that appeal, then we would go enforce. If it's approved, then they would have the approval to operate. But on that denial, we would go out and provide them notification that it has been denied. We have to wait. There's an appeal process for that board denial. They have 30 days to file that appeal to circuit, I believe. Mr. Carpenter can correct me if I misstated that. But so there is that appeal that they could file upon the board's decision also.
30 more days, so.
Potentially, if they file the appeal, then we would stop that. That could stop that process too.
Right. Okay, thank you.
But we would not, until we knew there was an appeal filed in court, we would continue our process of the city.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
All right, Director Webb, Vice Mayor Webb.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Jamie, to follow up Director Lewis's question, I have a public hearing also on number 21, and I want to make sure I understand this correctly. Staff recommends approval. Staff recommends approval on the public hearing or on the project?
On this one, that's for the public hearing.
Okay, that's what I thought.
For this one, because you're setting
somebody's already asked, and I wanted to make sure I gave them the correct information. Thank you.
All right, before we let Director Collins off the hook, I want to make certain that the clerk and we have everything. So Director Adcock, item 5, those answers have been, you've gotten those answers. And
the plan.
Yes.
Director Hines, item 12 has been answered for you. We're going to do a presentation here shortly on item 18. Director Hines, we're going to hold separate items 24 and 25, correct?
Correct.
And 17 and 18.
17 and 18.
17 and 18. And we're going to get some more information for Director Warwick on item 26, and item 25 is held separate by Director Hines. Am I missing anything else? All right. Thank you, Director Collins. We've gone through everything. We'll now have
Item
a...
38, we want pictures.
Yes, the pictures are, yes, we already had that included. Would you like to, let's pull up 38 so Director Adcock can see the pictures.
36.
36. I think everyone has the pictures in their hand or on the way to have it in their hand shortly. We'll now swiftly go to item 18. The newly appointed CEO of the Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority, Gene Block. Guess 3 months on the job, 4 months, 6 months? 6.5. 6.5? I take away so much you're going to get.
That's right. Good afternoon, directors, Mayor Scott, and Acting City Manager Cox. I'm Jean Block, CEO of Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority. I appreciate your time, I'd like to make a few short announcements and make a short presentation, and happy to answer any questions about item 18. Last summer, Central Arkansas Water approached Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority to ask if our utility would operate and maintain the Wrightsville sewer system. Their system, like any sewer system, includes the collection system, which is the underground pipes, pump stations, and the treatment plant itself. And in Wrightsville, it's a lagoon. Our utility evaluated this, and we determined that we could operate and maintain one component of the system, which is the gravity collection system, the pipes underground. Over the last 2 months, our staff, our chief legal officer, our chief engineering officer, and chief operating officer worked with their counterparts at Central Arkansas Water to draft an agreement that would outline both utilities' responsibilities. And in short, our utility would provide this service on a contract basis at cost. I liken this to 2 other long-term contractual relationships between our utility and Central Arkansas Water. The first is a billing arrangement. For over 20 years, our utility, Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority, has paid Central Arkansas Water to handle our billing and our customer billing. Conversely, for about the same amount of time, 20 years, Central Arkansas Water has paid our utility to service and maintain their entire vehicle fleet and their equipment. Both of those contractual relationships have been successful, and I would expect that this relationship would be too. Last month, our commission, the Little Rock Water Reclamation Commission, considered this and approved it. I believed, though, that it was prudent to bring this to you all to consider and decide whether you are okay with our utility taking this on, given that it is outside the city limits. At this time, I'd like to welcome our Chief Operating Officer, Hal Anderson, to the podium to make a short presentation about the Wrightsville system and about the scope of the work in the contract. I am here to answer any questions. He is here as well, and our Chief Legal Officer is also here if there are any questions about the contract. So I will turn it over to him.
Mayor Scott, members of the board, I am Hal Anderson, the Chief Operating Officer for the Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority. This is a short presentation. Gene had come to me, asked before we presented to our commission last month, to more or less quantify what this request looked like, and then to evaluate our utility's ability to do this work as requested from Central Arkansas Water. So I apologize, I have not presented here before. Do I just ask for the next slide, or, yeah, next slide, please. So just very quick, this is an overview of the system. It's got about 1,565 residents. The collection system was constructed in 1992. In our world, that's relatively new. So that's important when you start thinking about the type of materials that were used. It's about 12 miles of pipe ranging in size from 8-inch to 12-inch. It is PVC pipe. That's good. That's good for us. That's the newer type of pipe that's used these days. 250 precast manholes. Again, precast manholes is a newer type construction. And I think it's important to note that this equates to approximately 1% of the Little Rock water reclamation collection system. Next slide, please. This is just a very quick overview of where this is. You can see Wrightsville. You can see the blue line is your extraterritorial jurisdictionary boundaries. And in the far upper right-hand corner, you can see our Fush Creek Water Reclamation Facility. Wrightsville is shown there in the black outline on the bottom of the page. Next slide. So it was important, as Gene mentioned, working with our legal staff and CAWs to clearly outline what the responsibilities of the two parties are. Again, very important to note, we are only talking about the gravity collection system, not the pump stations or the treatment facility. For Central Arkansas Water, responsibilities that they agreed to is they would complete a collection system mapping system of the entire system. That's important to us. All of our work is done via work order. We need to have a mapping system with manholes identified so that we can track our work orders and track our costs in this case. They would complete all manhole inspections, repairs, and adjustments, and that work is to be completed prior to us starting of our work. Also important to note that CAW will hold the wastewater permit issued by DEQ. We will not be involved in that. CAW would retain ownership of the entire wastewater system. We are more or less a hired contractor in this case. They would provide emergency response to any customer calls, and they are responsible for any of the repairs on the gravity system estimated to exceed $5,000. They are also responsible for operation and maintenance of the total wastewater system except the gravity system, and that's the pump stations and the treatment plant. Next slide, please. So next is our responsibilities. Again, limited to the gravity collection system only. We'll provide acoustic inspection. That's our new way. You can see it on the upper right there. That's our new way of our fast response to inspecting pipelines. We would provide hydro cleaning, CCTV, right-of-way maintenance, and any pipeline repairs less than $5,000. It's important to note we would invoice monthly as the work is being done, and CAW would reimburse us for our cost within 30 days of that invoice. Right-of-way maintenance and point repairs would only be done to facilitate the cleaning and inspection work. Next slide. The initial contract term that we agreed to consider was for 2 years. Year one involves a complete system cleaning and CCTV inspection. This was something we requested so that we would have an idea of a baseline of the entire system. With the CCTV inspection, we would know where all the residents' service lines are connected, so if there were any issues, we'd be able to find those quickly. And we estimated the cost of that endeavor to be about $151,000. Again, it will be actual cost with what we'll bill to CAW, and they would reimburse actual cost. Year two and beyond, now we've got the baseline system behind us, and we'd just be doing our typical acoustic inspection followed up with cleaning and any point repairs that would be required as a result of that acoustic inspection. Those estimated costs are simply now estimated to be $42,600. Next slide. What I'm trying to show here is just a pictorial version. The blue circle is a year's worth of work that our current crews do. The red is what percentage of that is now being considered under this contract. Again, just trying to give you a way to quantify what the ask is in compared to what our crews do on an annual basis. Next slide. So summary, CAW is responsible for the collection system mapping and major repairs. The Wrightsville collection system represents about 1% of our existing system. Maintaining a gravity collection system is our core business, and I have to say we do it well. No additional staff or equipment is required. All costs will be reimbursed by CAW, and the proposed agreement clearly represents the responsibility of both organizations. And I think what the last slide is basically the request that's in your packet to where you would be authorizing us to enter into this maintenance agreement with CAW. So I hope that quickly summarized the magnitude of the effort and what we see as the request.
All right, Director Miller, you have any comments I know you're the CAW liaison.
Yes, well, thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the presentation and how it's been outlined and the responsibilities that each organization is going to have. My question is this, the contract itself, does our city attorney look at that contract also?
And seen it.
Is that something that, I think you probably want to see it, would be my off the top response when we're asking to, as a board, approve a contract. I certainly want our city attorney to take a look at it too.
We would, for two reasons. One, you have a policy in place that bans extraterritorial extensions of utilities. And we have defended the right to do that. So this will be a change on that and may open us to having to do others. And the second one is just a practical one. I want to look at it. Little Rock Water Reclamation can say they're only going to do the gravity one, but if the pumps go out, I have a strong suspicion a court's going to tell us to go in and take over that too. And do we want to do it? So those are the kinds of questions we'd like to look at.
Okay. So how long would it take for you to review this and certainly give us your thoughts about it as a board?
Well, I think that depends in part on how long it is. If it's like 15 or 20 pages, a week or two. If it's 15 or 200 pages, then, after I've read War and Peace.
Ms. Block.
It is 7 pages, intentionally concise, and so we will be happy to forward that to you, Tom.
Great. And let me quickly say that Gene and Tad, and I don't know who all the legal people are now, they've always been very cooperative with us. So the fact I haven't seen it, I don't think is any mendacious thing. I think it's just, we haven't seen it.
Okay, thank you. And the other sort of observation that I'd like to share with you is, of course, you said 1992 is not long in terms of a system being up, but certainly there's maintenance issues that have to be taken care of on a regular basis. So tell me about your due diligence on that, or do you even perform that since it's maybe outside the scope of this contract that we're contemplating?
No, so that's a great observation. Our system being put in 1992, we would have been maintaining it all this time. So this system, there is some unknown as to how well it has been maintained, but that was the reason that we wanted to clean and televise the entire system that first year instead of just taking on the responsibilities without knowing what we were getting into. So again, we're encouraged because yes, 1992 sounds a little bit older, but being a 1960 model myself, most of our collection system, a lot of our collection system was installed between the 1960 and 1980. So we are very familiar with the older type collection systems, and the pipe material, the PVC pipe that was used in 92 is the same pipe that's being used today.
I appreciate that. Let me ask you also, just in thinking out loud here, wouldn't part of the due diligence be looking at the pipes first before year one?
Well, there's some work that needs to be done by Central Arkansas Water as far as manhole adjustments and some manhole access. Again, if I was giving you a bid, if this utility was saying, I will do this work for $150,000, I would not do that with what we know. But being in a position to where our cost will be reimbursed and having a lot of experience on what it takes to clean and televise a gravity sewer system, that is the reason we're comfortable with moving forward in a cost reimbursed arrangement with CAW.
So again, your due diligence wouldn't include looking at this pipe initially, but year one, you're going to do it.
That's correct. That would be done in year one. That would be part of year one of the contract. One of the reasons, and I didn't mention this in the presentation, part of, I guess, CW's endeavor involves funding from the Arkansas Natural Resources Division. The type of work that we're going to be doing in year one by televising and cleaning the entire collection system would be work that would be considered reimbursable for them. The type of work that we would be doing from year two on is considered more O&M, operation and maintenance type work, and is not to be reimbursed. So that's another reason why we wanted to do the entire collection system in year one.
Okay. Thanks, Mayor. Those are my initial thoughts.
Director Hines, I know you are a liaison to the Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority.
Right. Thank you. I want to commend Gene and Hal on their work. This was, for them, a very political venture that they don't like to get involved in because of some feelings from us on this board of doing work outside our own collection system. I think Tom brings in a consideration I hadn't even thought about, that if we're doing this contractual work, does it open us up for other stuff? I will tell you that we gave Gene and Hal very specifics. Could they do this? Will it have any negative impacts on our users and our customers? And the answer is no. The policy discussion is for us. Unfortunately, and I've got some questions for Mr. Bohannon because I see him in here, and I've heard that he will not be with us next Tuesday. So I was gonna wait next Tuesday and ask those questions, but I'm going to. The fact of the matter is the Wrightsville system has not been well maintained. That's the whole reason that ADEQ has asked CAW, who went out looking for the work, is my understanding. They went and had the state statute changed a couple years ago to allow them to do this work. They have come in and proverbially got the tiger by the tail, and it just tells me that CAW is not prepared to be able to do this. They wouldn't be asking for our help if they were. That is probably one of the gravest concerns. Is it the right thing to do? Probably so, helping a smaller community out. I have some questions for Mr. Bohannon on the financing. I noticed that they're doing an $11 million revenue bond issue. I have some questions on whose revenue is being used to fund those bonds. This is supposed to be a standalone deal. Having been with water reclamation for just about the majority of my time on this board and watching them shepherd the tail end of, well, I guess not even really the tail end. I guess I came in about the middle of it 13 years ago through a consent administrative order that we're trying to hopefully get the holy water sprinkled on here in the next coming months that will get us out from under that is no easy task. And so I have full confidence that what Gene and Hal have told us they can do, that does not give me, there's policy issues for us to discuss on this. I would say the action taken by CAW and their commission has put us in a bit of a rock and a hard place. when it comes to this. But like I said, I've got a few questions for Mr. Bohannon if he's got the time.
We'll come to Mr. Bohannon shortly, but we have Director Campiris and Director Wyrick.
Thank you for a nice presentation. Let me just, first of all, ask, it says the maintenance service agreement has an initial 2-year term.
That's correct.
What happens in the 3rd year?
I would anticipate that at the 2-year mark, or just prior to the end of the 2-year term, we, meaning Tad and I, our council, our chief operating officers and engineers would sit down and evaluate how the contract has, the performance of the contract, and that we would, we would renew at that time. Again, with the blessing of this body here. Because this is such a new service and a new arrangement, I thought it was prudent to have the duration of the contract be at the 2-year mark versus a 4 or 5 year, a longer term, just so we could evaluate how things were going.
And I agree with that, but just to play the devil's advocate, let's say at the end of 2 years, we're into this, you're our utility, this fails, or for some reason you think it's not going to be, do we have a responsibility, do you have a responsibility now that we have gotten it to some point to maintain it or put more money into it or spend more than the 1 or 2% of time that you're talking about right now? I mean, in my business, sometimes I go in and think something's going to be there, and then it's a lot worse when I get in there.
Sure.
And, I mean, these are modest amount of funds that you're spending right now. But what happens if it doesn't work? What's our responsibility legally, Tom, if we get into that situation, if things start happening where they're not working, if the pumps don't work, as Tom said, if you get in there and you inspect the device and you do fiber optic visualization and it's a lot worse than you think, what are we going to do? I mean,
sure, those are very fair questions, and we've considered that in the contract, and it contains a provision, I believe it's a 6-month notice, that if either party wants to terminate the contract, a 6-month notice is provided to the other side, and we would be able to terminate at that time. And again, that is something that we would be evaluating. To the second point that you made about unanticipated challenges with the pumps and having to take ownership of those, responsibility for those, we have been very clear in the contract to delineate that our responsibility is only for the collection system. We have specified that anything outside of the collection system, the underground pipes, that is not something that we would have any legal liability or responsibility for.
well, then who ends up having that responsibility?
Central Arkansas Water has that responsibility. They have, and Mr. Bohannon can speak to this, but Central Arkansas Water has ownership of the entire system at this time. So really, they will still have ownership of the collection system. We are just going to be a contractor that they utilize to clean and operate the system.
So really, you're just a service organization.
That's exactly right.
You're servicing my air conditioning.
That's exactly right.
And if it goes bad, then you tell me it's bad, and
that's right.
That's my problem.
That's right.
Okay. The third issue is that 3 of us have been on this board long enough to have seen the policy where we have withheld this sort of service outside the city limits in order to get people to come into the city, to sit into the city. And are we, by doing this, not here, but if we do this, and this is the policy, are we setting up a situation where we're setting up satellite cities all around our western border and promoting white flight from our city, that you can go someplace, you can still get our water, you can still get our sewer, but you're not going to pay for what's in here? And that's just a real issue to me. I mean, I think that this all sounds good, and we all want to help Wrightsville and everything, but once we do this, and you're a developer in West Little Rock, and you say, you know, I can have the best of all worlds. I can have your sewer system, I have Dan's water system, but I don't have to come in, and I don't have to be part of the school district, I don't have to be part of anything. What are we doing policy-wise? Is that a wise decision for us to make? And legally, how do we maneuver around this, Tom? Or is there a way? I mean, once you've done it, do you have to do it for everybody that asks?
Director Compurison, we had that very question raised in the Chartwell Valley litigation. The district court, the federal district court, and the Pulaski Circuit Court was impressed by the fact that we weren't doing it anywhere. And so not doing it there had a rational basis. I don't know what a judge would do if it was seen that we've done that. There have been things we have done on emergency situations, but this isn't really an emergency situation, it's sounding. So that's the question, I think, for the board. Why are we doing this? And I guess the question for wastewater, to follow up on your question, is 2 years from now, you think it's not worth it, who's going to do it?
Exactly. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the third step and the fourth step and the fifth step, and what happens when someone comes back and says, I've got a community right outside Little Rock, but I don't want to be part of Little Rock. And one of the reasons that people ask for annexation is because they want our fire, and they want our water, and they want our sewer. And what are we doing as a board? We set that policy, what, Joan, 20, 30 years ago, that we didn't want to propagate satellite communities that weren't part of our community. And we didn't want to be in a situation where we inhibited growth. And luckily, we had Chenal that wanted to be part of what we were doing. But that's my big issue on how we look at this and how we decide this.
All right, Director Wyrick.
Thank you, Mayor. My thoughts were, as Director Kumpuris' thoughts were, in regards to the potential of building in some areas. And, you know, we have to provide, without annexation or with annexation, have to provide services to the residents. I don't know today who owns this facility. Is it City of Wrightsville? Is it Central Arkansas Water? Who's going to be the owner of this facility?
If I may I defer to Tad Bohannon on that question?
So I guess Director Wyrick,
She said.
are your questions going to be related to, I think your first question is related to the CAW, and so we'll bring up Tad Bohannon.
But are they going to be the owners of the Wrightsville Sewer Treatment Plant, Central Arkansas Water?
No, ma'am. So basically, how we understand it.
Is Wrightsville the owner?
The current owner, Tad, how about you come up? Yeah.
The current owner, thank you all very much. The current owner of that system right now is the City of Wrightsville.
Okay.
As we move forward on this, then ownership would change to Central Arkansas Water. The plans are, as we move further down the line, is that it would be spun off into a single purpose entity that is out there that's not Central Arkansas Water.
Say that again. I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry. Initially, this this system would become the property of Central Arkansas Water. We have a 3-year period of construction and financing, what have you, but at the end of that, then the idea would be that, and the plan is to spin it off into a single purpose entity that is not Central Arkansas Water. So it is a freestanding entity out there on its own.
Would it go back to City of Wrightsville?
That is not the state's desire.
Well, I have concerns in regards, the ownership seems kind of flaky right now as to who owns it. Maybe that's not important to some folks, but when we start placing sewer outside the city limits boundary, it's going to trigger a lot of costs for the city of Little Rock. And so I have some concerns about doing this. I do applaud the two entities for coming together with the plan. I mean, you figured out how to make it work. But it's, as Director Hines said earlier, this is a policy decision. And then the city attorney says that we may have to make some policy changes because of this. And so that gives me a lot of concern. So I just had to ask those couple of questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ward. Director Hines?
Yes. Ted, I guess the question is, so tell me again, has CAW taken ownership of the system yet?
No.
Okay. So what you're saying is that still has not been determined how you're going to own it, correct? Because here's my concern from a standpoint, not only from water reclamation, but from CAW, an entity that was created by this board some 30 years ago to deliver water and services to Little Rock and North Little Rock ratepayers. Right. And this is a question I brought up to you many months ago. Knowing what I know about consent administrative orders and how the EPA and Sierra Club and all these, if CAW takes ownership of this, and I don't know any other way other than, I'm not an attorney, but the only way to do it is it has to be a standalone entity with no connections back to CAW. I don't know how you do that because if CAW has any ownership, to me, and Tom can tell me if I'm wrong, but ultimately liability comes back on the ratepayers of Little Rock and North Little Rock. And that gets to my question, the $11 million revenue bonds you guys are going to issue, I guess tomorrow, the 14th, 2 days from now. Where is that revenue coming from? Is it coming from the Wrightsville sewer system?
It's actually coming from 3 different sources. It is coming from the Wrightsville citizens and residents. It is coming from the state of Arkansas Department of Corrections that operate the Wrightsville Correctional Facility down there. And it comes from a total separate sewer entity, Sweet Home, Higgins, and Red Oak, that sends its water to Wrightsville for treatment. So Wrightsville is actually only 8% of the utilization of that treatment plant. 25% is Sweet Home, Higgins, Red Oak, and the other 67% is the Department of Corrections, the Wrightsville Correctional Facility. So the thing that's worked out on the financing is that, yes, there's going to be a $10 million plus bond issue, and then there's a $5 million grant. That $5 million grant pays for all of the citizens of Wrightsville's share of the capital improvements to the system. And then the board is also considering on Thursday a rate resolution that will increase rates, and the average Wrightsville customers' bill will go up about 20%. And there's been meetings in Wrightsville with the Wrightsville City Council, and the public have been there, that's been discussed. They know it's coming. But the way the financing works literally is that the Department of Corrections will be paying about $40,000 a month to satisfy the debt.
And you have that in blood, I hope, with the Department of Corrections in the state, considering how well it's gone with our state prisoners in county jails and all the county judges in this state?
And I do understand that, and I understand that question, and they will be responsible for that money.
Well, But CAW is issuing the revenue bonds.
CAW is issuing the revenue bonds. CAW's water revenues are not pledged as collateral for those revenue bonds. Shep Russell with the Friday firm is our bond counsel, and he has done a very good job of delineating that the funds that are available for repayment of that bond issue are the funds generated by the Wrightsville wastewater service territory in and of itself. And that's the only funds of CAWs that are pledged to repayment of that debt.
But we're using the good faith and credit of Little Rock, North Little Rock payers to do this.
Actually, given that none of the revenues of the good citizens of Little Rock, if you're an underwriter, if you're a banker, if you're a loan individual, the only thing you're looking at is the capacity of the Wrightsville system to be able to repay that debt.
So my question would be, why isn't the Wrightsville system doing this on their own? Without CAW?
I think there's a couple reasons, and a lot of them are policy considerations. As you have noted before, this state, for a period of time, worked very diligently to get people off septic systems for public health reasons, and they encouraged communities to put in wastewater systems and water systems. We're seeing the same thing in Helena, West Helena. Most of that water system was built with grants funds from the state initially, and we've seen a lack of repair, and you all have seen the headlines on Helena, West Helena. So the question becomes, how does the funding policy change? And that is where the state is working, and I'll give them credit for this because it's not politically popular, but they're saying we're not going to fund systems that are not financially viable, and we're not going to fund systems that can't maintain their systems in and of themselves. And so we're going to look for other solutions. And they asked CAW to help. I can tell you that a predecessor of this board back in the mid-1960s asked Little Rock Municipal Water Works to serve water in Wrightsville. Long before the 80s came around, when there was discussions about should we serve inside or outside the city, but the water that was originally taken down to Wrightsville that is now CAW water was authorized by the city of Little Rock back in the mid-1960s. And it was to address public health and provide water down in that community and take care of those things. So all of these customers have been customers of Little Rock Municipal Water Works, our Central Arkansas Water Post 2001, since the 1960s. They have been served water from this community. They paid their bills. We have a 99% collection rate. It's 99 point something collection rate of collecting the bills. We know that the wastewater bills are paid too because we collect them just like we collect for Little Rock Water Reclamation every month. So we know that what's available down there and that we can get paid for what we're doing. Our commission, and I don't want to speak for them, but I can tell you the discussions have been, this is a public health issue. We're talking about a community that has sewer running on top of its surface. We're talking about kids that go out and play in their front yard and they're playing in sewer water. They're talking about people that you talk to and they say, our yard is great until we wash clothes or everybody takes a bath and then there's sewage in our front yard. This is a public health issue.
All right, and is there not another entity? Are there not for-profit entities that come in and do this job?
There are for-profit entities that can come in and do this job.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. So we are not the only game in town when it comes to this, but you have decided that this is a game we should play in based on the public health issue?
And the for-profit utilities in the water and wastewater space is an interesting discussion that I'd love to have anytime you all want to have it. But you have communities that have, I'll use Atlanta as an example, and they said, oh, we're going to go for profit. And then they spent just a ton of money getting the system back from the for-profits because they realized it wasn't the best thing for their residents. We have the same thing happening on the wastewater side. Conway is ringed by for-profit entities operating small systems in neighborhoods. And for Conway Corp, it sets up a problem that as the city grows, they're not going to be able to provide services in those areas because for-profit entities have taken those systems over, and they're not about to let it go. I'd say when venture capital enters the space, there's a lot of money to be made. And that's what's happening is you have venture capital dollars entering into the space, looking to come in and operate these communities. And they also do it on an interesting thing is that, PSC requirements for private entities only comes in at revenues of $1 million. And so the other thing that the for-profit entities do is they set up every one of their little entities. Central States has done this. They set up every one of their little water or wastewater utilities as a separate entity. So they never have PSC jurisdiction. There's no transparency. There's no accountability to the Public Service Commission as to what the rates are that they're charging. They can charge whatever they want. And this city's going to grow.
Ted, you don't have any jurisdiction to Public Service Commission either.
We do not. We do not.
Distinction without a difference. I will disagree the point on that, but we're not here to talk about philosophy of that. I just, my concern, and I think some of my fellow board members is this the camel's nose under the tent, and what's to stop you from going out and asking another entity that's failing in the periphery of Little Rock or North Little Rock? And that's the question. And, I'm looking, as I look at the map, it's not even close to our ETJ, but like I say, this is a policy discussion that you're forcing us to have. And I know you've taken it as animus towards you, but I am just not happy with the fact that we've had conversations about your rate increase and then to come back hat in hand and ask this board to do something else when you basically said take this rate increase and shove it is an issue. And, I do not lay all the blame at your feet. You have bosses, commissioners, and we'll get a chance to address one of those Tuesday night. That's why I asked it to be held separate. That's all the questions I have.
Director Millard and Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. Dad, let me ask you, as a banker, I always look at sources of repayment, certainly on the revenue bonds. The primary source of repayment for that is going to be the ratepayers of Sweet Home, Red Oak, and Higgins. Is
They'll
that
be
not correct?
responsible for about 25% of the debt.
Okay. What's the secondary source of repayment?
The only revenues pledged for repayment on this deal are the wastewater revenues generated by the Wrightsville system. That is the only revenue that is pledged. There is no guarantee, there is no commitment, there is no, if you need the money later, it is just those funds.
And as I understand it right now, that Sweet Home, Red Oak, Higgins system pays Wrightsville, and then Wrightsville pays their bills.
That is correct.
That's correct. In your discussions with Wrightsville, what is the percentage of collections that they get on a monthly basis? Now, do they have any delinquencies? Because that...
On the accounts or on the system?
Both.
Okay. Our collection rate is well over 99%, and that includes both the Sweet Home, Higgins, and Red Oak area. It includes our entire system. The collection rate is solid, and it's been that way there is a powerful motivator for payment with the ability to turn off water. That's another philosophical discussion that can be had, but the ability to turn off water as a power makes people pay their bills. So collection rates there. The other thing that's interesting about this arrangement is we collect the money every month. We have it. We have it in our possession. We know that the bill can be paid. So there's a comfort in knowing that when we bill the residents, that when that bill is paid, that the revenue is there to pay.
So your payment comes from the city of Wrightsville?
All of our payments come from the end user, the residents, the business, everything. Just like you receive your bill every month that has reclaimed water and trash on it, solid waste. All that money comes to CAW. All that money is collected by CAW, and then CAW distributes that money to either the city or to Little Rock Water Reclamation as it collects the money. In fact, we actually pay it in advance.
Did you, as part of your due diligence, want to take a look at the pipes first?
We had a preliminary engineering report done. The company called a local engineering firm called Hawkins Weir went in there and did a preliminary engineering report on the system. They looked at manholes, they looked at lift stations, they looked at some of the pipes. They did not televise the whole system. There is funding available in that $5 million grant to pay Little Rock Water Reclamation to televise that system. We firmly believe and have confidence in Little Rock's Water Reclamation's ability to do that and do it efficiently and do it well, so that when they come back and say, here's the condition of the system and here's what needs to be fixed, that we're going to have an accurate report on what needs to be done.
Let me ask you, why wouldn't it be something you'd want to do on the front end as opposed to them doing it in year one? I mean, part of your due diligence, it would appear to me that you'd want to take a look at these pipes to see what type of deferred maintenance you might be inheriting, as opposed to waiting for the Reclamation Authority to do it on their first year of the contract.
Based on the preliminary engineering report, we have ideas about all of it, and we can narrow that down further with their study. The way it's set up is that comes after the fact. We're not committing CAW dollars to even pay for that survey to be done.
So your diligence is not something that the Reclamation Authority will accept. They won't do their own.
I would say they want to do their own, but I've also said that we've asked them to do that. It was in the preliminary engineering report that one of the first things that needed to be done was to CCTV the entire system to know its ultimate condition, and that's why we've contracted with Little Rock Water Reclamation, because we know that needs to be done.
Okay. And let me just say, as a resident I'm from Wrightsville. I'm really below Wrightsville. That's where I'm from. I remember when CAW Water came to Wrightsville. Didn't come to my house. We had to get that from Woodson, get rid of the septic, but get rid of the well. But Central Arkansas Water did come down there, and that was a glorious day for the residents along Highway 365 South. So I understand. I think it's great, but there's certainly some things that need to be tightened up, and I'm anxious to see what our attorney says once he's reviewed the contract. Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Director Phillips, then Director Curious, and then Director Hines.
Mayor, I don't want to belabor the issue, so I don't have anything at this time. Thank you.
All right, Director Curious, then Director Hines.
Ted, thank you. A couple of questions. Again, the worst scenario. What happens if 4 years into this, Mr. Anderson's group comes back and says, you know, we've now inspected this and we've got a catastrophic problem and your 11 or $15 million isn't enough. Where does the money come from to fix the system up at that point in time?
There's 2 or 3 options there. One is we know that the state is down there. So there's the option there. We can always sell it. We can always let it go to a for-profit entity. And the PSC will guarantee them a 9% rate of return on their capital investments in the area, because that's if they have to go to the PSC, and if they don't even have to go to the PSC, then they'll just charge whatever rates they want to charge.
And then, secondly, I think that there has been a number of issues that have been brought up by this discussion tonight. Is it critical to pass this next week?
It is not critical that the city pass the contract with Little Rock Water Reclamation. I can tell you that we, and I will say I, would much prefer to work with Little Rock Water Reclamation on this. I think we can make a great team, and we've shown great partnerships, as Gene mentioned earlier, on other things that we've done. So, it's an aside, but I think at least the reports I've gotten from my staff, if they have just thoroughly enjoyed working with the Little Rock Water Reclamation staff on this project. So that is what we prefer. But it's not going to happen. The CCTV work and the work that Little Rock Water Reclamation is contracting to come in to do is not going to start April 1st. There's some other things that have to be done. So does it have to be approved next week? No, sir, it doesn't. But I can say we would really like to work with Little Rock Water Reclamation on this.
And I would prefer y'all work with them. I mean, we're all together in this thing. But the issue that I'd like you and Gene to talk about and give us your thoughts on, and have Tom give us your thoughts on, is your 2 entities that people want to come to developments outside our city limits, or outside the North Little Rock city limits. And I agree, and I think it was the wise thing to do in the 60s to bring water down there. And I think for health purposes, something needs to be done down here. But the long-term or potential long-term consequences of doing this to our city is something that when I read about this weekend, I didn't think about. But I'd love for y'all to get together and give us your thoughts on that, and Tom to give us your thoughts on that, because I'm going to have a hard time supporting something that I think will end up hurting the citizens of the city, and especially the minorities, other African Americans in this city, if you have white flight and can get services outside our city limits. And that's just being blunt about it. We have used this as a way of increasing our revenues, increasing our tax base, and making this a more encompassing city. And I don't want to do something that potentially could hurt that, what we've been doing in the past. It's something I just thought about last night and today, but it's an issue that I think this board needs to really think about, and you and Gene need to think about and tell us your thoughts about how that's not going to happen in the future, and Tom come back and tell us the same thing. And that's the real issue that I have with where we are right now.
All right, Director Hines.
So Ted, two other questions. So you talked about being able to pull people's water service, and since Department of Corrections is 67% of the flow, and I would imagine if it's priced like any of our commercial customers would be, it's generally be more than 67% of the revenue. Are you going to be able to pull their water meter?
Give me the water.
At Department of Corrections if they don't pay their bills?
We can do it now.
Okay. And I just wonder if you're aware of what my displeasure with how this has all come about.
I think I understand that.
Okay.
And I think it's pretty high.
And because you have put us in a position, and doing the right thing's always easy, but being forced into a situation where this is a policy discussion we should have been able to have a long time ago than being put in here is, and I know there's been behind the scenes discussions on you coming to us with this, and I know the majority of this board, including our mayor, have told you that they did not want this to happen. And again, this falls under the heading, just because you can do something doesn't always mean you should. And I would lean towards more than likely this board, and myself included, is going to do the right thing. But I certainly don't like being put in this position. And it's not the first time. Thanks.
So, and thank you, Director Hines, members of the board, because I want us to get to our other policy discussions today. I do want to ask Tad, just because he made one statement, and I think the city attorney talked, I want to lift this up. When you stated to Director Pierce's question about working together, you said you would prefer to work with Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority. I know there's timelines that you have with the state. And so to level set board members, because CAW wanted to do the right thing for Wrightsville, they applied for a number of different funding mechanisms, a $5 million grant from ANRC, a $10 million revolving loan fund. Those things, as it relates to ARPA, I believe the $5 million grant is with ARPA. They have certain timelines on how they have to obligate those funds. And so one of the things, as Director Hines has shared, that, we've all shared that we didn't like to be put in this position because of that application. That's the reason why we're here. And because we're here, we have to work through it. So I want to commend both Tad and Gene for working together to get us to this place to have a fruitful, productive policy discussion, because it's really three things. We got to make a policy decision for the city of Little Rock. We know that this policy decision is coming about because of a public health concern in another city in close proximity to us. And most importantly, we have to understand the legal consequences, because what we will be doing is setting a precedent by allowing this system into Wrightsville. And we know we have it on, we don't want, for instance, Ferndale just got CAW water. Ferndale does not have Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority. They won't have it. That's because of the policies that we've had in place that predates many different administrations. But the legal concern, we have to understand, by doing this, does that trigger other developers to do certain things that we know we don't want to do? However, in the name of public health, we understand why we're here today. So again, for board members, it's a policy decision that's brought to us because of a public health concern, but ultimately we need to understand the legal. But because you stated it, Mr. Bohannon, I'm asking this now because I know you're not going to be able to be here. When you say you would prefer, because of the timelines that you have, would you then be forced to work with another contract a private service provider?
Yes.
And by doing that,
but let me say.
I understand. I'm just trying to get us to our other agenda. So members of the board, when he says yes to that,
and we've had these conversations, that's why I can kind of cut in. When the whole reason why we're here, because the initial conversation was, hey, we're doing this because of public health concern. According to the CAW, the state reached out to them, and so they made the decision to go forward. We have this policy decision, and so ultimately it's either CAW contracts with a private contractor, or they work with us, but it could create some downstream ripple effects from a legal standpoint. So in effect, if we choose if we choose to say, hey, you know what, we're going to stand by our policy, now we have CAW in competition with us, because we have 4 members of our commission and they're doing business with a private entity that could impede growth. And then, because if they do it well here, they could possibly do it in other areas of our city. And it kind of, again, that's not intentional. In talking with, and he sent us a letter that they'll never send water. They'll never try to do Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority type of work, wastewater treatment, not Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority. They'll never do waste treatment facilities in Ferndale. We have that on paper. However, there are other cities within the catchment area that if the state asks them again, this is a possibility. I think in my conversation, I've asked the CAW CEO, let's not get any more public health, well, not necessarily not get public health, but let's not get entrepreneurial anymore. We understand that this was a public health reason, but this really puts us in a bad decision of potentially telling a city that we know well no because of our policy, because we got to think about the residents of Little Rock. So those, again, those are decisions we got to make, but I want to be clear with the board members. If we do the right thing, let's say the right thing is to say no, that doesn't mean that this stops. That's why he said, I would prefer. So is that a good synopsis?
That's a good synopsis, sir.
All right, any more questions? Ms. Block?
Well, I want to
I'm sorry, before Ms. Block, City Attorney?
There is one question I had, and it's really kind of for both of you, because that means 3 lawyers are talking and we'll get 6 different opinions. There is one concern that I do have, and I heard Tad say the comment, well, we've got the power now to turn the water off. But that was one of the issues when Central Arkansas Water was considered and was created. And what I found in the law at that time is, no, you don't. You've got to give them at least 10 years worth of water to get their own system and their own mechanism in place. So my question is, what thought has been given by the 2 utilities of, if the city enters into this with you and with Little Rock Water Reclamation and with Central Arkansas Water, why aren't we going to be deemed the only show in town, and we really can't cut it off after a year or 2 years or even 10 years? Because Wrightsville would be having to come up with something else, which you've already said they can't do now.
Our ability is to cut off water. I'm not talking about wastewater. If they don't pay their bill, if you don't pay your bill,
you can cut me off, but you're not going to cut off the entire city of Little Rock, and you know it.
That's right.
Your water is one of those things like cars now that you can't do without, and no court's going to tell you can let people go out and take out wells and buckets and everything else to try to get their water. That's not going to happen. And so that's where I'm asking the question, from what considerations did y'all have about that?
I don't know where you're coming from on that, Tom. Wrightsville is not a wholesale customer. Right? The city of Wrightsville is not a system that operates their own water system. Those individual residents are CAW customers, and we bill for both water and wastewater. We do that now. We collect the money at a 99% rate, okay? It's not a matter of cutting off the whole town of Wrightsville. We know that the money's generated at the meter level. Okay, that's the cash register, is the meter, and there is authority to turn that water off if they don't pay for the service. And it's at the meter level. It's not the whole city, but we know that we're collecting the money to be able to pay the bills.
And what I would say is, from my utilities perspective, we just have one customer, and that is Central Arkansas Water. And we would be billing them on a monthly basis. And at any time, if they are not paying their bill for the services that we've provided, and if that goes on for a 2 or 3 or 4 month period, then I would anticipate that we would invoke the termination clause.
I understand that, but I go back to what I said. That doesn't answer my question. You're telling me what won't happen, and I'm telling you I don't think there's a judge in the country that would not grant an injunction to provide utility services until there was an alternative, particularly when they deal with water and sewer, which are major problems. And my question is, how did y'all discuss that? That if we get into start to this, if we decide we don't want to do it anymore, we can actually stop it, and what would that involve?
So just to kind of keep us on time, what I would suggest is the attorneys for Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority, CAW, and whoever Tom designates, if not himself, to try to get together to provide some feedback to the city board for consideration on next week.
Sure, and I understand that Mr. Bohannon will not be here next week. So do you want to reschedule this for another date, or for him to be here?
No, we're saying in between before next Tuesday for the attorneys to, because we would like to know, the city board is not going to want to take any action if they don't have any legal understanding of the impact.
Sure, and we will certainly meet with Tom and his staff and provide that information ahead of time. And so, knowing that next Tuesday, Mr. Bohannon cannot be here, do you want to?
Well, we could definitely, here's what I've heard from Mr. Bohannon is, when's the deadline that you need?
That's what I was about to ask.
As far as the $5 million grant funds to be able to cover a great deal of expense on this, particularly for the residents, all of the expense for the citizens of Wrightsville, is we have to issue a notice to proceed on the construction to the contractor by March 31st. That's when we have to issue a notice to proceed to the contractor.
What I would suggest, since you won't be here, is to just, we got another board meeting on March the...
It's an agenda meeting.
We can do a special meeting then. What's that date though?
March 26th.
So we have the 19th is
It's next
Tuesday then. So we could consider, we'll do a special call meeting on the 26th, since you won't be here, and that'll give you all some time from a legal perspective, and the board will know what decision they want to make.
Thank you.
All right.
Sure. And again, I do want to thank you. I fully recognize that this is a policy decision, and we will defer to the will of this body on this issue.
We got one more question from Director Phillips.
That's logistical for TAD. The special call meeting on the 26th, assuming we agree, is that a sufficient time for you to issue the notice of construction by the 31st?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mayor.
All right. Members of the board, we'll now transition to our policy discussion. Thank you again, Mr. Bohannon and Ms. Block, and your respective teams. We'll now transition to policy discussion. City Director Phillips will take the lead on the discussion on renters' rights.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm pulling up my notes. And to my colleagues, Ashley's passing around what I consider a working document for discussion purposes that ultimately, or hopefully, not ultimately, be used for us to create an ordinance related to these issues. So first, let me thank the mayor and the city manager for giving us time for this discussion again. I know this is an important issue to our city. Thank you to the residents and the advocates related to this issue for being here and being involved throughout this process. Your presence and your input does not go unnoticed. And I encourage anyone who cares about this issue, please, after you hear us discuss this today, if you have other thoughts, feel free to email me, reach out to us so we can really think this thing through to get it done correctly. To kind of level set with the people who are not familiar with what we're talking about, the idea behind this policy discussion is for us to come up with additional protections for our residents who are living in substandard living conditions in some of our larger complexes throughout the city. This started years ago, and I say years ago, I was one of part of one of the families that used to live in substandard apartments in the city of Little Rock. We were displaced from our apartments. I lived in a Ritz Motel for 3 months before we moved to another substandard apartment complex. I share that to say that I understand when people come up here to our board meetings and talk about the very bad living conditions. And I know how it's demoralizing every day to live in those type of situations. And fortunately now I'm on the, at the table, as they say, and I'm in a position to hopefully invoke discussion and promote change to protect our tenants in that regard. So in that respect, I have met with tenants. I've met with our city staff in our neighborhood and housing programs. I've met with apartment complex owners. I met with advocates to try to come up with something to give more teeth to the Little Rock City Code. As our city attorney has reminded us multiple times, Arkansas state law limits what we can do as a city as it relates to landlord-tenant rights. But I want to toe that line. I want all 10 toes to be right on the line. I don't want to violate the law, but I want to get close to it as possible to protect our tenants. So here's what I've proposed that's been handed out to my board members. And again, this is the discussion. I'm gonna kind of lay out what I've proposed to everyone, to hopefully we can talk about it. First thing, I was researching the city code. Under our litter nuisance section, we have a lien provision that states that if a property owner does not remove weeds, I'm gonna just read it. If a property owner fails to cut weeds, remove garbage, rubbish, or unsightly or other unsightly or unsanitary articles among the property, and I'm not gonna read it all. So let me just start over. If a property owner fails to cut weeds, remove garbage, rubbish, and other unsightly or unsanitary articles, then the property owner can be subjected to a lien by the city of Little Rock. That's already on our books. That's something that we can already do. My proposal takes that same concept and applies it to our landlords who fail to remedy the life safety violations in their apartment complexes. So it's not changing what the city already does. It's just taking something we do in one area and applying it to a new area, with the additional caveat that, as my board members know, that some of the tenants who've come to us lamenting about their living conditions have been displaced from their apartments, and the city has to put them up in different housing, sometimes in hotels or other apartment complexes, and we foot the bill for that. Well, my proposal, the landlord needs to pay us back, because the only reason why we are required to put those families in the hotels is because you didn't remedy the life safety violation in your property. And if the landlord doesn't pay us back and remedy the life safety violation, then we can pursue the lien the same way we could if someone didn't cut the weeds or remove unsightly items from their property. And then also there's a process for us to determine the lien amount. We would go to environmental court just like we would do anything else, but I think this could be the proverbial stick to get some of our landlords to not put their tenants in those situations. Ideally, a landlord would say, hey, I don't want to go through that. Let me just make sure I take care of things on the front end. Otherwise, the city will pursue a lien against your apartment complex. So that's proposal number one. Proposal number two, to be clear that this would only apply to multifamily 18 and multifamily 24. So these are the larger complexes. This doesn't apply to single family homes or duplexes, quadplexes. These are for the large apartment complexes that it will only apply to. Additionally, under our code currently, our rental code only applies to properties that are not owned and operated by MHA. So this is also unchanged. So any MHA property is not affected by this because they're by code outside of the code. So I want to be clear on that issue as well. I reached out to Director Collins to kind of get a sense of how many units this would apply to. There are 51 units in our city that 51 apartment complexes that this would apply to if we were to invoke these changes. Additionally, I've heard stories from the city attorney before about challenges we have on getting people into court. And we need to, and this one probably needs a little more tweaking like all this, but we need to have a better process of having a person on behalf of the apartment complexes who lives in the city. So in the event they do need to be served, we know who that person is and we can contact and serve that person so we can proceed with the lawsuit. So those are the three proposals that are listed in what I've handed out to my colleagues. They're all listed in red, so that's why I was printing in color. So the parts that are in black are existing code. The parts that are in red are things that I've asked you to consider. One other thing I want to mention, and then I'm going to ask Director Howard to come up because I know he has experience in this issue and may have some additional ideas. But another thing we've heard from our tenants, and I think we heard this last week where someone was talking about the rodents in their apartment, is whether our tenants know what their actual rights are, what they're entitled to as a tenant in the city of Little Rock. Under the Little Rock Code, section, make sure I say this correctly, I guess it's section 8, subsection 405, lists a lot of the tenant rights that you are entitled to no matter where you live in the city of Little Rock. These are existing rights. I'm not trying to add to them, not trying to take away. This is more of an informative piece, so when people move into an apartment, no matter where they move, they understand, hey, I'm entitled to these things. These are my rights under Arkansas law. So I have created just a very rough outline of what some of the big ticket items are for our tenants on what their rights are when they move into apartments. Now, my question for the board, I don't know how to go about getting this to all the tenants. I don't want to punish, air quotes, our good landlords who don't have these issues where now we're overburdening them with, additional paperwork when this doesn't apply to them. I'm mindful of that. The people I know that I've talked to that own apartment complexes say, hey, we don't want to do additional work if we don't have to, and I can get that, but I do want people to be aware of what their rights are. So I think the first thing we can do is agree on what this document should be, definitely make it available on the city website so everyone can be able to access it from the website standpoint. But I would love to hear some discussion on some ways to make sure that our tenants get this information from their landlords. Because I know Director Adcock says this all the time, everyone doesn't get on the computer. Everyone doesn't have internet access. So just listening on the city's website may not help the people who need it most. So we got to be mindful of that. So I hadn't figured that out yet, but that's why we're having a policy discussion, because I don't have the answers. I want us to come up with the answers together. So with that, I'll stop talking, and I asked Director Howard if he would approach the podium, and him and I spoke a little bit about some other suggestions that he may have based on his experience with, landlords and tenants dealing with some of these issues.
Thank you, Director Phillips. We do see a lot of different things that we run into when we're doing rental inspections. I think some of the issues that you discussed earlier would address some of those things that we run into as far as the units that we inspect on a daily basis throughout the city. One of the things that I know that's a major issue that we expend a lot of our city funding with is putting these individuals in hotels. So that would address that issue. And then us issuing those life safety items to the owners of these units, and they're not completing those life safety items in a timely fashion, thus putting the actual tenant in a situation where those things are not completed. And so then we would have to address them as far as putting them in a hotel. So that's the first issue that we see a lot of. And then once they do, we issue a citation to them and they get into court. The time period that it takes to remedy those items that are life safety items, and some could be non-life safety items. That's a 30-day allowance that we give as far as the notice that we provide to the owners. And then those items are not completed. So then we're still in the same situation because they're going to court. We can't issue no more citations to them in during that yearly time period. And then so we still having the same issue. And so we get the same call from the actual tenant to address those issues. So that's the second thing. And then one of the other things that we did discuss is when a tenant actually moves into the property, in essence, that gives the actual owner of the property and the tenant to give them allowance to either take pictures when they're doing their move-in inspection, sign a form, signing off on what they see. If anything needs to be addressed at that time period, we want to see that when we come out to do the inspection, because sometimes we do have a situation where the owner has done everything in their power to make sure that the property is meets the minimal property standards, and then they go out to the property, they move in the person, and the person comes back and say, hey, these things were not done prior to me moving in. So that allows us to see what happened on both ends, protecting the actual tenant and protecting the owner of the property. So those are some of the things that we see.
Thank you, Director Hire. I appreciate that context. And I listed that in the documents passed around to the board members on things for us to discuss. And I guess before you take your seat, I don't know if anyone else has any questions for you. I want to ask you this. You're the one, your team is the one that goes through all these. Generally, I should have probably asked you to get prepared for this before I asked you, so forgive me. How many life safety violations are you seeing in a year? How many citations are we issuing to apartment owners? How big of an issue is this, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Well, it just depends as far as the complex. Of course, we have some complexes that we have more issues than anything. And then we have some complexes we rarely see. We may have one or two life safety items. A life safety item could be the smoke detector may have been taken down. So we get into the unit and it has a smoke detector in each one of the bedrooms, and the tenant may have taken the smoke detector down. So that's a life safety item that we're gonna write up. If we have missing covers on electrical outlets, we're going to write that up because a kid could stick their hand in there and get electrocuted. It's a lot of different things that play in part as far as life safety items. But
those are not the type of items that'll get a family displaced when we're putting people in hotels, right?
No. It's the major items that we see where they have no water, they have no gas, they have no electric, and we had that happen before with Villas on 65th. I think it's probably been over a month and a half, and they finally got gas on. So we would have to address those issues. Those are the major things that we see. Having no way to cook, no hot water. Those are things that we see a lot of times that we have issues with. But we know those complexes that we inspect, and when we get those complaints, we try to go out and inspect a large number of those units that we see issues with on a daily basis.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Director Howard. With that, I don't know where the mayor went, but I guess I'll take control. Director Adcock and then Director Howard.
Okay. Who should I address, you or?
You can, either one of us.
You mention in here the heating units, but you do not mention any air conditioning or any cooling. I think in today's world that we should expect the landlord to furnish either window units or an air conditioning in the facility.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. So I guess that is for me. So in the tenant rights that I drafted, I highlighted just some of the rights that are listed in our current code, and then that's why I had the link at the bottom for the full list of rights. I'm not sure if the AC is listed. I can look that up. Do you know, Director Howard?
I don't think the AC is listed. I can get Brian to confirm that.
It's not?
That's what I thought. So the AC is not listed, but one of the things that we look for when we go inside a unit, we look to see if the unit is actually there and if it's in operations. Because we had a recent tenant that came up and talked about her unit not being on. And so we look to see if the unit is in operation. If the unit is there, then it has to be in operation.
That AC unit, that is?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
The AC unit has to be in operation. So if it's a unit there, it has to be in operation.
So what is that?
I think we need to make sure that that does have cooling in today's world.
That will be a question for Director Collins, and I know he's there. You want to come up and discuss that?
Yeah, and I think if it's not there, Director Adcock, I think that's part of the policy discussion. I think it's on us to put it there. If it's not included in the code, we're the legislative body and we can put it in the code if it's not there already. Director Collins?
Cooling is not a requirement under the state code. Heating is for livable space, but cooling is not. Where the code sets up is if the tenant or if the landlord chooses to provide air conditioning, they do have to keep it in operation. That is also in our current code and in the International Property Maintenance Code that this board has adopted and is also part of the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code. So, the fact that somebody could build a home and not provide an AC unit, that is viable by state code. That is not within our code. That does not mean that the city couldn't adopt that criteria. Because that's in addition to, I don't know, that'd be more of a legal review because that's not in necessarily conflict with the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code. It's in addition to a little bit more strict than what the code says. So that's minimum standards for the Fire Prevention Code for that.
I understand. And Director Adcock, I'm going to come back to you, but Director Lewis, did you have a question about that?
I was wondering when they talked about the air, I know I think we're talking about the same lady. Isn't
Yes.
there a system where once you turn it on, you can't go back to heat? Or if you turn heat off, you're stuck with AC, you can't go. You get what I'm saying? Is that what we're saying? They will have access going forward where they can go back and forth?
Yeah, if you change the code, if you require them to have air, and they do have it there, but they on a different type of system. It's not on a set unit system that each individual unit has access to that unit. It's on a big chiller system, yes.
Can we mandate where they fluctuate between back and forth?
Now that's another question that Jamie would have to answer.
Director Lewis, are you talking about where it automatically fluctuates back and forth like a?
Where the tenant can turn on heat if she wants, and then the next day, if she's having hot flashes, I don't need to turn on the air, can she then turn on the air? Because there's a system now, when you turn on heat, that's all you can have. And then when it moves to air, that's all you can have. You can't go back to heat. So I'm just asking, will the tenants have that liberty to go back and forth and control?
That, I understand the question. That would depend on how the overall system is established for the multifamily or apartment units. There are apartment complexes that each individual unit has its own heating unit and cooling unit, but there are older systems, buildings that essentially has a chiller system for the entire complex, that cools the complex. So in some of those systems, it may not be the possibility of individually controlled unless that old system is replaced by individual units for the complex. So I don't think that's that many in the city, but if there's individuals, they should be able to control each whether it goes to heat or cool for whatever that unit is. But it also, that's part of the requirement, they need to be individually typically metered, utility metered, because that may be a private agreement in that rental agreement that they're not able to do that because it's an overall single utility meter for the electric that the landlord pays. So I would say it depends on the agreement, and it depends on the age of the building and the overall HVAC system, if it is an entire building system or if individual system.
Director Adcock, we interrupted you. If you could.
Also, I would like to have you talk to the fire chief and put something in here about the windows must go up and down for fire protection, and also maybe a fire extinguisher in each apartment or housing unit in case of a fire in the kitchen.
Okay, that should be already in place as far as the fire extinguisher, but I'll check with them as far as the windows too as well. 'Cause that should be as far as the egress.
Part of the fire code.
Thank you.
All right,
What was that, city attorney?
I think that's part of the fire code.
correct.
Yeah, to clarify, that is part of the fire code, but it also depends on the age of the building. So you would have some complexes that may have been built that doesn't adhere to the current one. And so if we choose to enact that, some buildings may not comply specifically with certain things that we enact just by the age that they are when they was built. And when as they do modifications to the buildings, we could bring them up to the current codes.
Did you have anything else, Director Adcock?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Director Wyward?
Thank you. So when I look at the documents, I appreciate Director Phillips for bringing this forward. I know he's been working on it for a while. I like some of the aspects of it, would like some clarification. One of them is the lien process. It makes sense to me that if the property is not kept up and we have to move somebody to another place, that we ought to be compensated for that. But how does the lien process work? Because I know we've got lots of liens on property, and so all these liens, some of them have been out there for a long time. Do these particular liens have a way to be paid much quicker than our normal liens, or do they really run with the property? So if they sell the property, that's when the liens are paid off. How do you see the liens working for the apartment complex? That's one question. The other thing that I thought about was the landlord responsibility section. The shiny new apartments that we see across the city, we don't have the problems, or we don't hear the problems that we do with the older apartments. I know there are apartments in Southwest that have been there 40 years, and we've been fussing about them for 40 years. Maybe there is an age limit that we put on apartments so that if they're a certain age, then you got to have this photo documentation, you got to have any waivers that the tenants have given, have that documented on the front end for the older apartments. I know with mobile homes, we had mobile homes coming into the city, and they were in a state of bad repair. And so I think it's pre-1975 or 76 mobile homes. They're not allowed in the city. So we made a delineation on age for mobile homes. So maybe we can make a delineation in age for apartments, because those truly are the ones that we seem to have a lot of problems with. The things that I hear are mold, which we don't have a mold crew, right? If there's mold in the apartments, we don't have any way to identify it within the city. We may have a contractor, but I'm hearing mold, utilities, that either be no hot water, no water, sewer issues, and then we have critters. Roaches and mice and things like that people complain about. Well, if you've got an apartment unit where you have one unit that has that, the rest of the apartments are impacted, or some that are very close to the ones that are complaining. So if that happens, then there ought to be some sort of a review of the apartments around there to see how many are impacted, so you don't just singularly go after this apartment or this apartment or this apartment. So it ought to be a concerted effort from the city to look at things. So those are a few things that I thought about. I'd like to know about the lien process, how that's going to happen. Are we going to get immediate payment, or to just sit on the books for years and years and years and never get addressed until the property's sold? And maybe to talk some more about the apartments that we do the treatment for the individuals as they rent a home, and then be more comprehensive when we get complaints. Looking at more than one apartment, and having the ability to get into those apartments handily so we can see what's going on. And you may already be doing this, I don't know, but these are just thoughts that I came up with in looking at Director Phillips' information.
So I'll try to respond to that, Director Wyrick, and then Director Howard, if you got anything to add, please do so. So I'll try to go in reverse order. And one, appreciate your comments. So first, I guess I should defer to Director Howard, definitely, because you're talking about enforcement strategy for code enforcement, how they go about and inspecting the issues. That's what he does. So I'm going to stay out of that lane. As it relates to the time frame issue, if your apartment complex is 30 years old, then you do have these certain requirements, because we know of its age. That's why I want to have this discussion, because I didn't even think of that. That makes sense. One of the things I thought about is, and I don't know how you do this, but if you've had 5 life safety violations in the past year, now as a result of that, you have to do X, Y, and Z. That way we don't, punish the good actors, and we limit it to those who hadn't met the mark. So those are the kind of things that I kind of want to discuss. So I'm glad you brought that up, and we can think about that going forward on the final version of this. And then as it relates to the lien, when I drafted this, it wasn't with the intention of creating the new process. So when I brought that section over to this section, it was, we're going to implement the same process as it currently is. Now, I hear you, and I share your concern that the current process, those liens don't give us, it gives us something, but not enough, right? So if there is a way for us to give more teeth to the lien process, then I want to do that as well. And I don't know what the answer to that is. So maybe there's something, City Attorney, that you can add to the discussion at some point in the future on a way to kind of bulk up that process. Because Director Wyrick, I share your concern that, it does help to get the lien. No one wants a lien against their property. Obviously, it prevents or prohibits your ability to sell a property because if you got liens on it. But are there other things we can do to be a little more punchier with those who are violating our laws? And I would like to do that.
They may actually show up on a property tax statement. I don't know if that's true or not. Is there any place that liens show up to individuals today if the city puts a lien on them?
I can answer that question.
Okay.
The first suggestion I would make as far as making sure that we get the money in a timely fashion. Currently, the way our lien process is right now, we do lien certifications. The lien certifications come in front of the board. We're probably currently in 2017 to 2018 currently right now. But once we do the lien certification and you all certify those liens, it go to Pulaski County. And so it's certified and it's on their tax bill. So it's a requirement that they pay it on their tax bill. That's the current lien process currently right now.
How many outstanding liens do we have? Don't we have a lot?
I couldn't tell you that right now until the lien certification come to you. The staff mails out the information to the actual individuals. We have to certify the liens, make sure that the property hasn't changed hands prior to that point, or if the property went to the
Certify 'em on a
state.
yearly basis? I mean,
Yes.
what if you've got 2018, 2019 liens out here? Are they already certified, or do you recertify them every year?
So we certify them as we bring them to you, to the board. So currently, we're in 2017. Currently, right now, we'll bring 2018 to you too as well. But it's just another suggestion of the way you can get the money if you're going to do it on multifamily units, because single family is a little bit different. The multifamily units, they have to receive a license to do business in the city. So you say, hey, you cannot do business in the city unless you pay your lien. And that would allow you, because it does have to go to circuit court if they do not, to environmental court if they do not pay their
Do we do that
business license.
today, or are you suggesting that that happens in the future?
I'm saying in the future, we don't do it currently right now. That's just a suggestion to get
It
the
seems
funding.
like the lien process today, it takes a long time to get any benefit from it.
Well, we do it on just single family properties. It's not multifamily, so it's a little bit different.
Got it. And this is maybe, I guess it is related to the conversation. Why is there the lag in the lien time?
One, staffing.
Okay.
We don't have staffing, and we're playing catch up because you all passed the resolution for us to do this about 5 to 6 years ago. So we're going back, picking up the liens that we could based on the legal statute.
Got it. Director Campiris and Director Miller?
Kevin, do y'all, of the 52, you say, the apartment complexes in town, is that?
That was from Director Collins' department.
Okay. Well, no, do y'all rate the apartment complexes?
We do have a system in place where we know which properties that we'll go to. We do have properties that we don't like to say A, B, C. I know that's one of the things but we do have properties that we know that are problems, that we get a lot of complaints on based on the residents that are there, that we have to go out and do inspections on. Of course, the units that we see that are newer, that are out more in the West Little Rock area, more downtown, that are newer, we don't have to go to those units as much based on what the complaints that we receive. A lot of times, the units that are older, the units in certain parts of the city, we have to address those a lot more. We may go to those units maybe 2 to 3 times a year versus us not going to another unit that is newer, probably less than 3 years.
Well, I think Antoine, what you've done is great. Here's the problem to me, and that is if we say to renters they have Bill of Rights, then we have to be able, on our side, to adjudicate those bills of rights. So do we need to have more judges in environmental court? Do we need to have Kevin's department doubled in order to timely do things with those people that come down here?
I think Director Howard said yes to that.
Well, I know, but what I'm suggesting to you is as we look at this, we need to be able to put some number on here. I mean, you can't just say, we're going to give these people their rights.
Well, these already exist. These are already on the code. This is nothing that doesn't exist. It's just information about what already exists.
And I agree with you, but I think that we have to look at ourselves and say we're part of the problem. And if we can't get it out there and get those people in there or out of there, and I think that I would love to have Tom find out if we take someone out of an apartment and put them in a motel, if we can charge back to the owner of the motel, of the apartment, that cost. Because if you do that, that's the single biggest thing you're going to be able to do to someone to stimulate them to do the right thing. To me, if I own an apartment and I've got $100 bill a day to put a family up, and you've got 100 families or 50 families up, that can run up a pretty big bill pretty quickly. And I don't know if it's legal to do that, Tom. But that would be the thing I would look at. And then I'd ask you and the mayor to say, what do we need to do to take what you've done and what we have on the books right now, and in a timely manner, take care of these people, take care of what we're saying. And that's, to me, the biggest, our fault. I mean, that's my fault and all 11 of us.
Well, and that's why we're having the discussion, for exactly that reason.
But that's where I think we can say we're going to do all the things we want to do for people and tell them what their rights are. But if we don't have a way of enforcing the rights, it's just, the people will come back and say another empty promise by a bunch of politicians, which would be true.
I'm with you all the way, Director Campiris. Director Miller?
Yeah, thank you, Director Phillips, and quite frankly, thank you for your work on this and championing this cause and giving us something to look at. It's always easier to look at something. Somebody has to do the work, and then we can take a look at it.
Yep.
So I appreciate you doing that. Now, one of the things I want to understand in my mind is I want to protect tenants against retaliation, and I don't exactly know how you do that. I know we have tip lines or calls, but if you get a call and then it's a specific unit, they know who called, there could be retaliation taken against a tenant. And I'm sympathetic to that. Some people probably are reluctant to make a call because they are scared of that. And so I hope that there's maybe some way that we can get this information without putting a tenant in that position where they are scared. And if they do report something and then the landlord takes it out on them, don't renew their lease or give them a hard time. So I'm sure you've probably seen something like that. How do we protect tenants now? Or do we when we get a tip like that? Or are they're just at the mercy of the landlord because the landlord knows they call the city on them?
Yes, and we recently just had an issue over in Otora Arms that we had. We went out and did the rental inspection on the unit, and the tenant received a 30-day notice for eviction. And so that's one of the issues that has to be addressed through Arkansas State Fair Housing. So that's a fair housing issue that needs to be addressed. Of course, you know about that, but that's one of the things we have to find some way to address the issues when we're dealing with fair housing. And I know they made calls to the Arkansas State Fair Housing Agency, and so I'm not for sure where it went from there because we can't get involved unless they call us as a witness. And so that's one way to address the issue. As far as the city getting involved in that, we don't have any legal way as far as our code enforcement staff in my department. Tom can weigh in on something else, but that's the only way I would know to address the issue through the Arkansas State Fair Housing Agency.
So we get a phone call, it'll be from a specific tenant. They tell you the unit, call the landlord, and the landlord knows who called about that unit.
Oh, no, on that issue, it's just a complaint. We would address the issue as far as doing the rental inspection. But what I'm talking about is after we did the rental inspection and we gave them life safety items and the non-life safety items and told them they had 7 days to correct the life safety, and then you had 30 days for the non-life safety items, then the actual landlord evicted the tenant, sent them a 30-day letter. That happened recently.
So I'm a little concerned about that, Director Phillips. I don't know how we address it. That's just off the top of my head.
No, that is a concern, and I'm aware of that example that Director Howard is talking about. But again, that's why we're here. So I didn't have an answer for that one, so that wasn't on the sheet. But that is something that we do need to address because you don't want, to Director Campiris' point, empower, inform people, and then it comes back to bite them. So I don't know what part we're on, but that will be the next part of this. So that's a very valid point. for me to consider. Me, you, us, to consider. We're all in this together. I don't know if I see any other hands, and I'll defer, and I don't know if the city attorney wants to add anything to the discussion, and if not, then Mayor, I think we may be done with this part of the policy discussion.
No, we got the document last night, and have had 2 meetings on it already today in my office, but there are a number of issues to be raised. I said this to Director Phillips, I would say it to you. If nothing else, I hope we can come up with a definition or nomenclature, because life safety under our code and life safety under the fire code are 2 different things. Life safety under the fire code, you're going to die. Life safety under our code is you need to fix your light switch cover. And so we really need, and then everything else is non-life safety. So we really need to kind of straighten out that nomenclature so that we know that our rental codes are consistent with our fire codes and our building codes and such. And I mentioned that to Director Phillips, but we haven't had time to go through it in any detail to make any other comments.
Thank you, City Attorney, and I think that's another part of this, to make sure we are, this is a heavy lift that needs to be done, and I want our citizens, our residents to know that it's hard work, but we're here to work hard on behalf of the people who voted for us to be here. So I appreciate Mayor, City Manager, Acting City Manager to allow this discussion. I appreciate my colleagues for providing some insight. And we will continue to work with Director Howard. I've taken some additional notes based on things that were suggested today. I will get with City Attorney's office after he has a chance to really soak all this in, and I'll report back. And we may have a third installment of the rentals rights policy discussion. This is becoming a trilogy. It may be into like Star Wars or something. It may be multiple, maybe 10 episodes. But for now, we're done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Hopefully not a docuseries. That being said, we'll swiftly transition to Director Peck, who will lead the litter discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think we've got a handout for everybody, and we'll try to be brief. I know it's late. And Director Phillips, sorry I had to piggyback on you, but time was the essence. First of all, I want to thank all of the hundreds of volunteers all across the city who participated in the big cleanup on Saturday. It was a great event. When we rally the troops, we rally the troops. And it is my goal that we don't do this just for special occasions like the marathon or cleaning up for the eclipse, but that this becomes part of the mindset of everybody in Little Rock. I know that we talked we didn't talk, but I announced a few weeks ago that I knew we'd all been receiving some emails and some concerns and some complaints about litter and trash. I took those to heart. And so I reached out to my friends, Norm Berner, Suzanne Harold-Smith, the Public Works Office, specifically Lenny and Ray, to come up with some ideas to see what we could do to solve this problem, which is certainly not going to be overnight. So we were looking at things like the really low-hanging fruit. What can we do? And so we've got an idea. It revolves around the Adopt a Street program, but that's going to take all of us, all of the at-large directors and the ward-specific directors to rally the neighborhoods. We've got so many neighborhoods all across the city. I think if we really focus on getting more streets and highways adopted and getting a really strong, snappy slogan together, that we can make a difference. You know, I've done a little bit of research. It looks like these litter programs revolve around a snappy slogan, like "Don't mess with Texas." That's probably the most famous one. Lots of them in Great Britain that are very clever. I don't have that. I'm not the PR person, but Lenny had the idea, and I liked this, and I think young people would respond to this. And by the way, the biggest litterers seem to be in the age group 18 to 32. I don't know why. Us older folks, we grew up with Keep America Beautiful. I know not to litter. When I was growing up, every car had a litter bag. We just did not throw anything out on the street. So Lenny came up with Respect the Rock. And not saying that that's it, but a successful campaign also involves celebrities or people in the community that can get people excited, because it's a sense of civic pride. It's a quality of life issue. And whether it's a new business considering to come here or a new family considering to live here, I mean, come on, I think we can all admit that it's pretty trashy. And it's not one person's fault. It's not a city department's fault. I'm not asking you to do anything crazy, John Honeywell, but I am asking us to take a look at Adopt the Street program. We've got a short presentation and a handout, so I'm going to turn it over to the folks, Norm Berner, Suzanne, Lenny, and Ray. Thank you.
Is this a slide advancer?
Yes, just speaking to the mic.
Is this a slide advancer?
Well, thank you, Mayor and City Board, for allowing Keep Little Rock Beautiful to come before you today and talk trash. And we're going to be polite about this. Trash talking is not polite. I'm Norm Berner. This is Suzanne Harrell. We're members of the board of Keep Little Rock Beautiful. We're an all-volunteer nonprofit. Back in 2006, we became a certified affiliate of Keep America Beautiful and Keep Arkansas Beautiful. We're one of the current 13 certified affiliates of Keep Arkansas Beautiful, and we're now like one of 700 plus certified affiliates of Keep America Beautiful. In the very beginning, our board members decided that we would create a beautification, a litter prevention, and a recycling committee. And those were our focus areas. We've grown over the past years. We're now up to 16 board members, and we have 6 committees that are active. Today, we're going to focus on our litter prevention committee, and as Director Peck has mentioned about the litter across our city. I want to talk to you about some of the detriments that we've learned about firsthand over the years regarding litter here in Little Rock. It's kept a number of citizens from moving to Little Rock. There have been a variety of businesses who have not come here. There have been some businesses who are here who wanted to expand in certain areas, but the areas were littered. And that's kind of sad. The biggest thing that I want to share, so we can keep this short, is that I was involved many years ago, and Director Peck knows about this. In the early 2000s, we had an opportunity to have a huge organization come here. It was FedEx. They didn't come here. When they first drove into the city, they passed a lot of litter and piles, and they drove in other places because we've got many roadways that connect into Little Rock, and they found trash everywhere. It bothered them, and they made a decision not to come here. We lost lots of opportunities for people to have jobs, and who knows how much tax dollars we've lost. So that's something that we want to focus on, you know, as Director Peck has mentioned, the litter that we have and the detriments that it causes to our city. Go ahead, Sam.
The top right photo there was from last weekend. That was one of our neighborhoods that participated in our citywide cleanup. The picture below is the after. So that's pretty dramatic. Next slide. Why are we concerned about litter in Little Rock? Well, all our street litter drains into our local waterways. When it rains, when it drains, it rains, it drains, whatever. Can't see that one. The 73% of the Little Rock streets drain into the Fush Creek watershed and its tributaries. The Fush Creek watershed has a designated urban water trail that runs from Benny Craig Park down to Interstate Park. And unfortunately, it's very, very littered, as you can see from some of these photos. Next slide. Kind of want to go over a few things of what Keep Little Rock Beautiful does. We are involved in the Adopt a Street program. We have adopted from Capitol Avenue, from the state capitol to to the interstate. So not only do we actively participate in the program, we partner with Little Rock Public Works to promote that program. And so we are actively promoting the Adopt a Street program. We're also involved in the Adopt a Highway program that out in our Adopt a Highway mile is out by Interstate Park. Last year, we conducted 5 cleanups on that area. We involved 75 volunteers and picked up 1,993 pounds of litter in that 1 mile stretch. We are in the early process of developing an educational program to outreach to elementary students in Little Rock. Next slide. Our biggest event of the year is our citywide cleanup, which happened just this past weekend. And I want to thank several of y'all that came out to our kickoff at Interstate Park and participated. And then some of our neighborhoods, I saw pictures of several of y'all at different neighborhood cleanups throughout the city. We do not yet have the results from this past citywide cleanup, but I wanted to review with you briefly some of the results from 2023. We had cleanups in 52 locations around the city, 638 volunteers who contributed 2,233 volunteer hours, 698 bags of litter, plus 24,840 pounds of bulky waste was collected and properly disposed. 10 miles of city streets were cleaned, plus 459 city blocks, 90 acres of city parks, 3 1/3 miles of waterways. So that was just in one day, in one weekend. In the fall, we also do a cleanup in Murray Park as part of the Great Arkansas Cleanup. This past year, that was some of our results from our Murray Park cleanup. We had 84 volunteers that picked up 3,455 pounds of litter in Murray Park and along the Big Dam Bridge and along the Arkansas River shoreline. Next, what's next? I think that's you.
So about 10 years ago, a group of 16 local, state, and federal partners came together under the name Friends of Fush Creek. And I currently represent Keep Little Rock Beautiful as the chair of Friends of Fush Creek. We put up 2 100-foot-long floating trash booms at Benny Craig Park to capture a huge amount of the street litter from the 15 major waterways that feed into Fush Creek. That's the lower photo there. That's what it looks like. You name it, and we catch it in these trash booms. They wore out after 10 years, and we got involved this past spring, and we purchased 200 feet worth of new booms. About 3 years ago, one of our Friends of Fush Creek partners, CAM, Central Arkansas Master Naturalists, came to us and said they wanted to adopt the trash booms at Benny Craig Park, and they did. And they'd been helping us for years, but now they've taken charge. So on every second Saturday of the month, CAM members and other volunteer groups come together to remove the trash from the trash booms. It makes a huge difference. The one thing that we have to do is that after we haul this trash out, we transport it 5 miles to Interstate Park to a secure dumpster, because at Benny Craig Park, the water level can change up to 18 feet there. And if we had a dumpster located, the last thing we want to do is have to go out into Fish Creek and retrieve it, because the water level comes all the way up to the restrooms. I've actually launched my own watercraft to float into Fish Creek from the restrooms up there. So that's a big difference. So we're happy that Parks and Recs allows us to use their dumpster and get rid of the trash. Over the years, we quit counting after something like 3,000 plus tires that made their way to Benny Craig Park. A lot of them illegally dumped, a lot of them float in with all kinds of trash. The upper photo there is something new that's happened. Our Keep Arkansas Beautiful organization has been watching over us for years doing our trash boom cleanup. They came up with a unique grant program just last year to enable 5 organizations across the state of Arkansas to apply and hopefully receive a grant for up to $2,600 per location to install floating trash booms. And we learned something about this. We're only the 2nd state in the U.S. to ever come up with a grant program for floating trash booms. It makes a difference. And I think Tennessee was the first group to do this. So anyhow, now on a monthly basis at Boyle Park, we're going to be cleaning up our new trash booms. And in Conway, Arkansas, Blue Sail Coffee, who used to be here in Little Rock, they applied for and received a grant as well. We're going to be installing their booms quite soon.
Having trouble reading this. Another thing Keep Little Rock Beautiful does every year, as part of our affiliation with Keep America Beautiful, is we're required to do an annual litter survey. And we've done this for a number of years, and I believe there's copies of the 2023 litter survey in your packet that you received. But just recently, we've been getting a lot of feedback. We've been seeing a lot of letters to the editor about trash in Little Rock and the whole state. So we thought we would do a quick survey to our neighborhood associations and get their input on what they are perceiving as the amount of trash they're seeing in their neighborhoods. So this was sent to 240 neighborhood associations. We only got responses from a small number, sample size less than 20. And this is what they told us. The blue on the top graph is the minimum amount of litter. The orange is slightly littered, the yellow is littered, and the green is extremely littered. So you can see in our small sample size, there's over 70% of the respondents thought that we have a litter problem. The bottom slide was we asked these neighborhood associations, does your neighborhood participate in the Adopt a Street program? And 75% of them said no. So if we could get our neighborhood associations out there involved in our Adopt a Street program, that would make a huge difference in our city. And I think the Adopt a Street program has been around for a number of years. It is housed in Little Rock Public Works, and we have worked with them. Am I stepping on your part? To promote the program. Is this your part?
What we'd like to share is how the city board could assist Keep Little Rock Beautiful with our litter problem. First off, because of your connections with the members of your wards and all the people that you know that we don't, We'd really like to ask you to promote the Adopt a Street program with all of your neighborhood associations, your property owners associations within your ward. Please invite business, civic, youth, and church groups within your ward to get involved in the Adopt a Street program. We'd like you to ask all of the current Adopt a Street program groups within your ward to consider adding at least 3 extra blocks to the program. That would make an incredible difference across our city. The other thing we'd like you to ask is the above organizations to possibly organize multiple cleanup events throughout the year, not just participating when we do the big citywide cleanup event we did last Saturday, and then our second largest event coming up in the fall at Murray Park. If you could promote the Adopt a Highway program and obtain adopters for all the state highways within your wards, that would make also a huge difference. I want to talk to you about a special project that Keep Little Rock Beautiful is considering that could help city department. As Suzanne said, many years ago, we got involved with Public Works to help them promote the Adopt a Street program. Made a difference. We recently reached out to UA Little Rock and created an intern program to help us on a special project regarding how common street litter items harm the environment. That was incredible, and we had the opportunity to present that information when Noosa came to town for like the, 47th time or something, or third time in the 47-year history when we hosted Noosa. We had a lot of people absolutely amazed at the information that we shared. But the one thing that we find out on a regular basis is so many people don't understand where street litter goes. They say, Mr. Norm, it went into the storm drain, it got taken care of. Well, big difference between a sanitary sewer system that gets processed and a storm drain system that goes to the nearest waterway. And Little Rock has 15 waterways that feed into Fush. That's why we have so much street litter. So what we would like to do, and we had conversation early on about creating a special intern program to help Public Works or, for the Adopt a Street program. There's only one person, to take care of that within the city, and they need more help. And what we've learned over the 27 years that this program's been in place, the spreadsheet needs help getting updated. We need people or like an intern to reach out and find out who's the current contact. What we've learned over the years, you see signs come off when an organization doesn't keep up with the program. And, they get their name taken off and they're no longer part of it. We could use a lot of help from an intern to make a big difference in just getting the data so that we now can use, emails and other methods of reaching out to the people to keep them informed of what needs to be done, allow them to report at a much easier basis. So we're going to find out fairly soon if that's going to work out. We're pushing hard on it. And thanks to Director Peck, we're going in that right direction. The other thing I want to share, what's on the horizon that could definitely benefit Little Rock from having a clean city, is I already shared about what happened with FedEx. We just had the groundbreaking ceremony for the Southeast Trail. Going to be more people that can be able to ride bikes, walk, hike, run, what have you. That's a great location, that'll connect into the current Arkansas River Trail. Southwest Trail is getting closer. That's going to be huge. I've been involved with MetroPlan since I went public with this and been helping them behind the scenes. They told me early on there are more people expected to use the Southwest Trail because of the unique location, the fact that it's going through natural environment, than the current number of people who are being recorded are using the Arkansas River Trail, concrete and asphalt. So we're very excited for what's going to happen with the Southwest Trail, and especially what's coming through our huge and unique Fush Creek urban wetlands. We've got the largest urban wetlands in the entire South and one of the largest in the U.S. And the other thing I wanted to share is Little Rock City Park number 65. Rose Creek Park just became our 64th. Friends of Fush Creek, the whole goal was to, revitalize our huge Fush Creek urban wetlands, and the city owns an 1,800-acre chunk, which is in the process of becoming an official city park. I think it could become the third or the fourth largest in the United States, but probably the most unique because you can't drive in it. There won't be any restrooms, no playground areas. The playground is what's there with the 300-plus-year-old cypress trees, all the birds, all the fish, all the wildlife, excuse me, that people are going to see, especially when they go over the bridge that's going to cross over Fish Creek and they can look down on this incredible area. So we've been working hard. We spent thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours cleaning up our incredible urban wetlands. The fairgrounds, Arkansas Fairgrounds is happy that this is going to become a park because it's right next to them. It's going to bring more people to the fairgrounds, more people to the city. Sam Ellis from Rocktown River Outfitters is looking forward to creating another location out at Interstate Park to rent out watercraft to go on Arkansas's first urban water trail that's between Benny Craig and Interstate Park, and also to rent out bicycles because of all these people coming. So we're going in the right direction.
We would invite you to reach out to us. Keep Little Rock Beautiful Board. We meet at the Hinton Center monthly, and our meetings are open. If you have concerned citizens or would like yourself to come visit during one of our meetings, we have very active committees that meet monthly and bi-monthly. We're very active on social media trying to get our message out. We keep an up-to-date calendar of events on our webpage, and we list not only our cleanups, our committee meetings, but also groups that we partner with. We set up our exhibit at different public events throughout the year. I think we will be at the Barkus on Main event in April. So we invite you to stop by and visit with us at any time you see us out and about. And we've listed our contact information there if you would like to get in touch with us to do more talking trash.
And one last thing. At some point in time when the weather's nice, we would very much like to be able to take all of you on a float trip out on Fish Creek. We have watercraft available, including john boats for people who can't get into a canoe or a kayak. And we also have watercraft available so the media who has to follow you can be out there as well. I think it would open your eyes. I know we've taken a few people out there privately. They've lived in Little Rock all their life. They've never been out there, and they said, this is incredibly beautiful. Thanks for bringing us out here. So thanks again for allowing us to be here today.
Norm and Suzanne, thank you so much. And I do want to ask Paul Atkins to come up very briefly and talk about a bridge to work. But before I say that, I've appointed myself, self-appointed, the trash czar of the city board. So I am going to harass y'all until you adopt your own street or highway, or at least encourage your neighborhoods to do so, because it's bad. And we live in a beautiful city, but it looks bad right now. So I'm going to be bugging you all about this pretty much every meeting, including you, Director Phillips.
Why did I get singled out?
I don't know, just because.
Okay.
But we can do better. And so we're going to put a lot of energy and drive into the Adopt a Street program. I'm going to adopt a street. I hope that all of you adopt a street or highway or get your neighborhoods to do it. Let's clean it up and take some pride in where we live. And, dinner for the rest of your life, if you can come up with a cool slogan. I don't really know that Respect the Rock is right, but
It's a start.
it's a start.
Can I say something?
You can say whatever you want.
I know Director Collins says that whenever we have a zoning issue, he notifies all the neighborhood associations to make sure they're aware. So he already has the list, so you probably may want to get with him and make sure that they know that they can do it and share this information with them that way, because we reach out to them apparently every week to make sure that they know. So that may be an easy way to jumpstart getting the neighborhoods to adopt the strip.
That's a great idea, and we have met with Lenny and Ray, the Sustainability Office. This is a natural fit because it does affect the environment. It is pollution. It's not just unsightly, and so we've already got the wheels in motion, but we need a slogan. And anyway, Paul, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. I was going to keep it focused, and then I goofed up the thing. There we go. There we go. Our goals are obviously simple, beautify the city, but also connect our people who are experiencing homelessness in meaningful action and help them on their next step, whatever they define that as, and create that community of support that helps them get to their next step. But the focus tonight is trash, so let's talk about how much we have been able to accomplish since we started the pilot in 2019. 311 requests cleaned, 750. Total hours worked, I guess one day we got rained out, so we only worked a half an hour at the end of the day. 12,049.5, and then 9,356 bags of trash removed from the streets. And there was another spot on there, I didn't want to make that statement before I could confirm it this afternoon, but we have missed 0 deadlines for responding to those 311 requests. So this seems to be a pretty effective way of at least addressing some of the trash issue, that we can just be out there as soon as our colleague in the Public Works tells us where to go, and then we can get out there with our crew. Got to mention Felicia Cooks. She's one of our drivers. She's out there every day that we're out, 3 days a week, which is helping us out, making sure that the guys stay and gals stay safe. And that was probably not a great turn of phrase, guys and gals, but you can edit that out later maybe. So any questions that y'all have? I think I have more slides, but that pertains to the more the social aspects of our work with our friends once we have them engaged in this project.
Well, we appreciate you all so much for doing this work. You know, Kathy, I think, was the first person Kathy and I both brought a bridge to work here, and it's been a huge success, and appreciate everything you're doing in the community. And y'all, this is not the last you're going to hear about this. I'm going to be harping on this, and we're going to clean it up, right? Go team. Are y'all excited about it?
I do have one question.
I can see Dean is really excited, but you already pick up a lot of litter.
Good already.
I know you do, I know. Okay, Paul, thank you, and thanks everybody for listening. You'll be hearing more.
Well, I have one question for Paul, Director.
Yes.
How many people are working in the bridge work currently? How many people we got in the program currently?
It just disappeared. About 2,000.
Did I miss that?
About 2,000 unique individuals.
Oh, okay, I see it. I'm sorry. That was on the next page.
There we go. So, yeah. I mean, some of them they do it once, and then we never see them again. That's the nature of people who are experiencing homelessness. But some, they come regularly. We let them work once, and then they have to take a week off, and then they can work the week after that. So we have some folks that are living in the towers. They don't have any income, the public housing units, and their rent is $50. So if we're paying them $48 for 4 hours of work one day, they're just 2 hours shy. They're staying housed by doing this work on a regular basis. And then we have some that work with us for a 30-day period every day. They're part of our job readiness program. And during that 30 days, they're getting their ID, their work documents, a social security card. They're building their resume, practicing their interview skills, practicing their communication skills, and of course, helping us every day. Working with others means that they have to hone those skills and figure out how to get along with people, which soft skills is one of those things that is keeping some of our people from getting and keeping work. So that's the overview. Let's see what other wonderful things that I've said in there that you can glance through real quick on the screen. Different issues that we've been able to at least refer people to. The legal issues addressed, that's a pretty hard number, because it's not usually us saying, talk to your public defender. We actually can get in touch with somebody in that office or someone, help them with different situations. And then, of course, we're connected with the TAP bus pass system. And there's some of the crew picking up, a couple at work there, and that is part of that community of support. That is Darren Hamilton of Denman Hamilton and Associates, a CPA firm. He's doing a class there on effective communication or interviewing skills. I can't remember which one it was, but the folks that are in job readiness are required to be there, and others jump in on that. Next week, we're going to talk about banking, and we talk about budgeting. We talk about renters' rights as well, figuring out what. If few rights you do have, how to exercise them, how to be a good tenant. So when you do get ready to, you get a job, we have a program that can boost people from just having a job and trying to maintain a life on the streets. They jump into the housing with help. We pay the first month's rent and the deposit and utility deposits, so they don't have to manage a job, the first weeks of a job, and living homeless. So the pipeline is there. It's not always, a smooth transition from living on the streets to finding a job to getting in that first apartment, because there just is so many different issues involved in why people are experiencing homelessness. But we got the pipeline there, and we're there to be engaged and be with people. That's our prime objective, is to be present, to show people that we care. Thank you.
Thanks so much for what you do, Paul.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
All right. Any more questions from members of the board? Any more concerns, questions? Seeing none, meeting adjourned.